Oh, man. Thank you guys for being here with me today. Happy Monday morning to you. And it is Monday, and it is February 5 in the year 2018. And we are here in outer space. Can you believe that? We're in outer space right now. And everybody's always talking about, meet me at the mall or, GPS. Dude, we are in outer space. We are astronauts. You realize that? We are astronauts right now. So if you meet somebody and they seem like they might be a little bit foreign, they might be an alien. And I'm not talking about an illegal alien or illegal. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about if you meet somebody and they got this crazy look in their eyes and they seem like something wild is going on, like they're picking their nose, but from the inside of their body without even using their fingers. If they seem geeked up, like the universe is just tickling a feather against the back of their brain stem, then maybe they're an alien. I mean, it's not that far-fetched to think that there could be aliens amongst us. Why? Because we live in outer space, guys. That's why. And if you were an alien and you came here, would you tell everybody? Would you tell everybody you're an alien? Probably not. You probably wouldn't. That's the first right there. I caught it. You probably wouldn't tell anybody you're an alien. Or at least in the past you wouldn't. I think these days, now you might tell people, oh yeah, I am an alien. Because now it's like the me generation. Now you'd be at a party and you'd have, a couple gin and tonics. And next thing you know, you're over in the corner showing one of your neighbors your frickin' tentacle dick or whatever. Or showing your, how your nipples can light up. You'd be now, I think if we're going to know if there are aliens amongst us, we will know it soon. Because I don't think that people can keep secrets as well as they used to. And maybe that's just me being, a little bit outlandish, but I believe that. I don't think we can keep secrets as well as we used to. There's not a lot of sacredity anymore. Things aren't as sacred. And I know secret doesn't then go to sacred. I know that's not how it goes. I know that those two words aren't connected, but in a way they are. It's there's not a lot of secrets anymore. Everything's out there. All the information, it's all out there. And they say knowledge is power, and I think it is. But I also think some of it's just, you can go on with them facts, Jack. Why don't you put your facts back in a bag and go on back down this mountain? Because we don't want all that around here. And I'm not saying that I don't want to be informed, but I just want to say at a certain point for me, where information starts to beat down on my imagination, where I can't even, where imagining isn't even as fun, adios, amigos. Or adios, migos, if you're listening to them rap boys. Because that's where I'm at. Super Bowl is on. I met Gerard Butler. Got to talk to him the other night at the Comedy Store. So, sometimes things are planned. Sometimes God have plans, or a higher power have plans for you. And that's what happened, because I know in the past I'd planned on meeting Gerard Butler, and then I didn't get to meet him, and here he was, bam, him and his buddy, his boy Freddie, and they popped out and said, what's up to your boy? And we chatted for a while, and it was a good conversation. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. Here's what I'm doing. I just watched the first quarter, and then I decided I'm going to start podcasting. And for me, man, out the gate, this bowl I wasn't feeling as into this Super Bowl. I don't know if anybody else felt that way. It didn't feel like the Super Bowl to me. I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, this is the Super Bowl? It just didn't feel super. It felt like a regular bowl. And that's kind of the vibe that I got. It felt like a regular bowl to me. I was like, oh, is this? It felt like a regular game. And I don't know. First, I wondered, well, maybe we're so used to things happening so fast now that the 2-week delay between the championship, NFC and AFC championship, and the actual Super Bowl, that's gotten to the point where it's too long. That was one of my first thoughts, like, because there comes a time, like, there's a point where everything jumps the shark. Like those Beats by Dre headphones. Remember those 3 years ago with the wide headphones? They're similar to the one. They're similar. They're similar to the ones that I have on in the YouTube. They're similar to the ones that I have on in the YouTube, if you can see the YouTube. These Beats by Dre. But they were the big headphones, right? They were the coolest thing. And then about 3 or 4 months ago, I looked at somebody with them on, and I was like, those are done. Those are over. You start seeing things like that, like, that's not a thing anymore. Those are over. And that's just part of how culture is. It evolves, And suddenly, something's over. And I just felt like that. Like, maybe that's the thing. Like, maybe this 2 weeks is just too long. You got too many other things that can happen. And our attention spans have gotten so short that 2 weeks is just not. Now, also, I could have still been butthurt because my New Orleans Saints, gave up one of the greatest plays in American history and probably in world history to the Minnesota Vikings. And that's what happened. But I stopped it at the first quarter, and I decided to come and podcast. So I got to change the batteries in my headphones right now. But we got a good cast, man. We had that gentleman called in last week, Mickey. On Thursday's episode, we had Sweet Mickey called in. And he's terminally ill. He have 2 bad lungs in his body. And the Lord or the devil or somebody gave him some bad lungs. And that's not up to us. We didn't do it. But he's got them, He's got them. And so we had a lot of callers call in and have suggestions for him. And so we're going to get into some of that in a little bit. Not yet, man. I want to tell you guys about meeting Sweet Gerard. So I met Sweet Gerard Butler. And man, I'll say this, I'm a heterosexual adult. And I would say if you chop me open and divided me up into 100 pieces, I would say probably 97 of those pieces would be heterosexual. And 3% of those pieces might be getting wild, being naughty. You know what I'm saying? Peeking around the roller rink. Seeing who might have a little bit of bulge in their forefront in their trousers. But that doesn't mean I would try anything wild. That just means I might have that double vision. That doesn't mean I want to do anything sexual. It might be that I see a man's tricep, in a distance and say, dang, oh, he armed up, You know what I'm saying? He armed up. And so that's just all it is, He could get out of a pool easy without using the ladder. You know what I'm saying? Because that boy tried up. He got them T-ceps, them triceratops. And he out the pool like that without even using the ladder. Just like a damn seal. Just like an otter that's trying to get risque and get out of the pool and take his chances sipping on air. And I don't even know if otters if they sip on water or not, or breathe water. Some animals breathe water. Breathe water. But anyhow, but I'm just saying, so that's where I'm at inside of myself, Now, who knows? When I get older, 70, 80, I might be out there. You know what I'm saying? I might be out there gumming down on some straight up street wiener or whatever, or local. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter, okay? But I'm saying I saw Gerard Butler, and the man have beautiful eyes, okay? He has, first of all, he could have one eye and you wouldn't even notice. That's how handsome the dude is. He could have, because every time you see a one-eyed dude, you're like, damn. You try to pretend like they don't have one eye, but they have one eye. And it's hard. You're like, do I look like, because it's not the normal. Usually when you look into somebody's eyes, your eyes kind of zoom in with theirs and y'all are eyed up. Eye to eye, they call it. It's an old saying. But now, when you catch somebody and they got that patch and they patched up, your eyes don't know what to do. And then your eyes start getting all crazy. And you're like, do I look at there? Do I look there? Do I look there? Do I look there? It's kind of like no whammies. And it's, but Gerard Butler, I'm just saying this, the man have two beautiful eyes. Beautiful eyes, dude. And you're thinking, yeah, whatever, I've seen blue eyes. Dude, his eyes, I'm telling you this, man. I'm telling you this. From a straight man, for the most part, until I'm 70 or 80, when I might get out there and meet a man. But I don't know that, and you don't know that. And it's okay if I do or if you do. If you get out there and meet a man when you're older, after you've already had a wife and had a family. You know what I'm saying? You've done your due diligence. You've done your job as a father and as a husband. And if you get out and about, you know, and you out there skeeting out with some, you know, fella at the senior center or whatever, that's whatever you want. But what I'm saying is this, that Gerard Butler, he could have an eye patch on, you wouldn't even notice. That's how handsome the dude is, right? He probably is, the dude is 100% handsome. 100% handsome. And he was cool as could be, man. He came out, his buddy came out, we started chatting. We swapped information. He said he was a fan. He'd seen me about 6 weeks ago or whatever. Right before I was on Fighter and the Kid podcast, I went in, and that's when I saw Gerard Butler at the Comedy Store. And they're like, Gerard Butler's in the back of the room. And I was a little bit nervous, but then I just, you know what I'm saying, I let out. Because on stage, I'm trying not to be about my nerves anymore. It's time to shine, you know? It's time to shine. But then he came out, man. We chatted on the front porch for a while. It was cool. And then it was Pauly Shore's birthday last week. It was the same night. And Pauly Shore, man, he turned 50. You know, beautiful man, Pauly Shore. And they had a lot of deviant, they had a lot of wild human animals out at this party. And they had a lot of porn stars and, you know, people with them fancy crotches and, you know, vulvas that can juggle and all of that. They had all them girls out there with them juggling vulvas and all of that. And everybody was out there. And that was at the Comedy Store, and they had a band. And some girls on stage singing horrible karaoke. This girl was so bad. And people were like, oh my God, what's this girl doing up there? And then I heard some other girl say, it's probably just some gal that blew Pauly for some stage time. And that made me laugh. Because the truth is, it probably was. And it was a great time, man, and it was nice to see. I mean, Pauly Shore grew up in the Comedy Store. Can you imagine? Dude, if I'm there for 3 or 4 hours, man, you could get anything you want at the Comedy Store. You could get joy. You could get pain. You could start a family. You could buy, you know what I'm saying? You could gram up if you need a couple grams of this or that. And I'm not naming chemicals, so if you're thinking of something, then you can think about what you want. But it's that kind of place, you know? It's that forbidden kitten. And you go there and you put both your hands out and you pet that poissé. You feel me? Because that's the kind of place it is. It's that forbidden kitten. And whatever your forbidden kitten is, you can get out there at the Comedy Store and you can catch that cat. Because that's the kind of place it is. But good to be here, man. I made myself some coffee. Dude, I went to the, right by my place over here. I live in Los Angeles, and right by my place over here in Los Angeles, they have a graveyard where Marilyn Monroe is buried. And now, Hugh Hefner's finally in the wall next to her. And that had been like, I think he'd bought her a grave site a long time ago or something, and they'd planned to be buried right next to each other. And I've been there a bunch, probably about 10 times over my existence here in Los Angeles. And finally I get over there, and both of them they were both, shelved in the wall. It's that mausoleum style. And both of them are shelved up in the wall, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, I wonder if in the future, like whenever they have graves, like if you go to a cemetery, if they'll just have like a thing where you rub your phone over it and it shows you who it is. And a video maybe even that they get to leave. That'd be wild, huh? I think about that kind of stuff sometimes, about the future or, I used to think a lot about, I used to have a lot of visions and stuff about things that could happen. Like when I was young, I used to think that at one point they would have a disc or something you would put in your car, but the band, they would have a hologram of the actual artist, whatever musician it was, and the artist would perform on your dashboard. So while you were driving, they would have these holograms performing, it could be anybody. It could be Chris Cross. It could be, Gerald Levert, Hall & Oates, Lyle Lovett. It could be anything. Sting. Steven Seagal. It could be anybody performing on your dashboard. And I used to have ideas of that and visions of that. But yeah, man, I met Gerard Butler. He was beautiful. And he was cool, man, you know. And I'm not saying I'm trying to wind up on Gerard. I'm not trying to be like that. And they call him Jerry. One of his buddies called him Jerry. I'm like, damn, bro, that's Jerry. That's fucking two-eyed Jerry right there. I mean, and this guy had portals to the nether sphere. He could be an alien. Gerard Butler could be an alien. You know, and it's like, are there aliens out there? A lot of questions already in the air, guys. Are there aliens out there? You know? Do Gerard Butler need two eyes? Dude, I'm just telling you, man, I'm not trying to be wild. You know, when I was growing up, I had a friend that he had nice blue eyes, and I always was jealous. Because, look, let's be honest. Blue-eyed people are doing well. You don't see a fucking homeless dude with blue eyes. You know what I'm saying? You don't see some dude out there, you know, jaying out behind the Shonies, you know. Some guy self-skeeting in a van out there by himself out there, outside of a Widespread Panic concert. You know, all hopped up on ecstasy or something and fucking a damn grilled cheese sandwich in a van. One of those vans with a ladder on it. Where's the ladder go? What the fuck? Talk about hooking a ridiculous accoutrement to something. Hey, here's a van. How can we make it look cooler? Let's put a fucking ladder on the side of it. Guess what? You go up the ladder, you're on top of a van, you idiot. Why don't we hook a water purifier on the side? That's cool. You know what I'm saying? Why don't we put a paper towel machine on the side? Right? In case you're having one of those crazy days where you got wet hands and you're standing outside of a van. You know, some of the shit they put on there, we don't need all of this. Let's put a soap dispenser on the side of the van. Actually, that's kind of cool. Because if you milling around a van a little bit too much, dude, you can, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't be surprised if you came in a little bit dirty. We tried something a little different this week, man. I decided to not have, usually I got Shy Chris Perez, and that's my Latino sidekick who's here affiliating and helping out. And I got Corey Kaz, who does the editing. And I got Bud Galloway, who came to fix the studio up this week and make it bigger, which he did. Also, he didn't clean up anything, and he hit all the cables. So, basically, it took me fucking 2 hours to set this shit up. But, what am I going to do? Try and be grateful. That's it. Be happy that at least anybody wants to come and help out and be a part of things. That's it. That's it. That's it. You know, because I'm not going to be an alien to myself. I'm not going to be an alien in my own life. You know, when I start getting just holding too much regret or too much judgment, that's when I feel my inner alien key up. You know? And that's when I want to climb up that van ladder. Maybe there is a good point. You know, when you're just standing outside of a van and you're like, fuck, man. I can't take it just, being outside of this van anymore. I'll see you motherfuckers later. And then it's just like, and you're just on top of the van. Whatever, man. That's what's been going on. But I met Gerard Butler, beautiful two-eyed Jerry. They called him Two-Eyed Jerry. They had a train hit another train in Amtrak. And I'll say this, man. That's the risk you take on the track, baby. And I hate to say that, but that's the risk you take on the track. And I've been on Amtrak, man. And they had a dude on there one time I remember something was in his eye socket. He could put a lit cigarette, in between his eye and that eye meat that's right under your eye, and he could inhale it that way. And that was wild. And we would watch him do that at night. Me and my brother, we used to take that train from Hammond, Louisiana, all the way up to Chicago, Champaign-Urbana. And my grandfather would pick us up there. And then he would drive us over to my grandparents' house where we would spend some time. And then my grandparents didn't want me to come anymore, and they just wanted my brother to come. And so, but that's life. Sometimes your grandparents don't want you. What are we going to do, bro? We're going to move onward. That's it. But that game is rocking right now. That game is rocking. So I think here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm thinking I'm going to check in with the game real quick. You're not going to notice because I'm going to be right back, and I'm going to watch a little bit more. When I folded out of the game, it was 9-3. Somebody had missed an extra point, and that was Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is that city of brotherly love, and it's very much like New Orleans. They got that vibe. They got that African American culture. They got that black vibe. They got that, real things are happening. People's out on the streets living life. They got some good food. They got some gun play. You got a lot of whites hiding in the distance. It's similar city work. Now, it doesn't have, Philadelphia is more like that, they got that historical kind of aspect. I think Thomas Jefferson up there. Who else from Philadelphia? Probably, who else would be from Philadelphia? I don't know, man. Somebody else. Other people, But it's a wild city, and I know they're excited, dude. I went to this party one time in Philadelphia at night. And it was a bar, but it was like in a house. It was pretty bizarre. And they would stop the music, not joking, between every song and do the Eagles fight song, whatever it was. And Lord knows if somebody did see an eagle up there in Philadelphia, they shoot that bitch down and eat it. I'm amazed that that's still their mascot. I'm surprised it's not the TV dinner. You know what I'm saying? But they set up in Philly, man. They had these dudes was like trying to get me to hook up with one of their friends, this girl. And they're like, yeah, man, take home, whatever. I don't know what her name was, Sheila or something, or Shayla. Take home Shayla, she's a real slam pig. And that, I guess, meant somebody who was sexually active. Somebody that's a slam pig. And I never even heard of that. Somebody being a slam pig and somebody being sexually active like that. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check in on that game. You're not going to notice. I'm going to be right back in just a second, and I'll be able to update on how I felt so far in the game. But so far, here's what I felt. I felt like it didn't feel like the Super Bowl to me. This is after the first quarter. I'm excited to see Tom Brady out there. That feels exciting. I thought that long shot that Philadelphia took into the end zone out the gate, that was exciting because, you see some of these young quarterbacks, even though Foles isn't brand new, but you see these guys get in there and they get nervous. And you see Tom Brady out there, and they just had a video of him kissing his son, which I think is fine. I think you don't see enough of that. It might have been a little wild because Tom was laying down. That's the part that made it wild. But I think if you want to kiss your son a little bit, that shit was a little bit Roman, really. That shit got a little bit ancient Rome on me. It had that Targaryen. They was looking a little Targaryen there suddenly when his son leaned down and kissed him. And it looked a little bit like the father was like Tom Brady had died. There was a lot of things going on there for me when I saw that video. And if you haven't seen that video, it's Tom Brady kisses his son. His son comes over and kisses him, and he said, it's not enough. He said, that's not enough. I want that championship kiss. And look, dude, if my dad, I'll be honest with you, my father never won shit, dude. And actually, he borrowed, I remember, about $70 off of me when he died, right before he died. And when you $70 off of a damn 16-year-old or 14-year-old or whatever, that was probably 70% of my retirement. And he borrowed that money off of me. And look, I'm just saying I'm just saying this. If Tom Brady's my dad, dude, I would kiss him. Man, I would have kissed that dude, bro. I might even kiss him on the neck a little bit, and not even sexually, just like, fuck, this is my dad, Just like Russell, it's like, when you got them hitters out there, there's something different about them. That's like Russell Crowe. If I were him, I'd wear sunglasses because somebody would steal one of that dude's fucking eyeballs. Like, that's the thing. If I ran up on Russell Crowe, man, and I had a piece on me or something, I ain't taking his wallet. I fucking pull that piece out, put it up by his dome and say, give me that eyeball. You know what I'm saying? Fucking spit that bitch into a cup, Jerry. What did I call him? Russell Crowe? I meant Jerry Butler, man. Gerard. Spit that, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if your eyesight can spit something out, but spit that eyeball into a cup, Jerry, because I'm auctioning this bitch off the internet. And then fast forward years later, I'm on a train on an Amtrak and I see a guy in the corner smoking a cigarette out of his eye socket, empty eye socket, and it's Gerard Butler showing out, showing his new skills. Because when you're a man like that, I don't think you fade fast. I think some heroes have hero built into them. You know, and that reminds me, I saw John Mayer the other night at the Comedy Store. And I know I'm name dropping in this episode, but it's just crazy. I got into a conversation with him. We talked for about 8 minutes. And I'm not bragging. I'm not fucking whatever. You know, John Mayer's a wildcat. I mean, I'm envious of probably some parts of his life. I'm certainly envious of his brain. I'm envious of his music style. Probably most of his life. Dude is also tall. You know. But here I have a funny story about John Mayer. So this was about 12 years ago. I was working as a tour manager, and that's basically where you carry the guitar and drive around a musician. And it just so happened that the musician was a friend of mine. This actually might have been about 14 years ago. And the musician was a friend of mine. His name was Josh Kelly. And so next thing you know, I'm driving Josh all around the country, and he hired me as his tour manager because I was his friend. And we had a great mutual friend. Anyway, so next time on that tour, we met John Mayer. Because John's music was coming out the same time as Josh's was. They were just both breaking as artists. And then we met John Mayer, and a lot of my friends, I was at a party, and that's where I met John Mayer at. And I had been listening to John Mayer's music because I was listening to all these breaking artists at the time. So I see him at this party, I know who he is. A lot of my friends who were at the party did not know. He wasn't the John Mayer that people know about now, as popular. And so I was like, and I met him there. Anyway, fast forward 11, 12 years. I'm at the Comedy Store one night, and John Mayer and Jeff Ross are friends. And he comes walking around the corner, and I just bump kind of chest to chest with him. And I was like, hey, John, I met you. And before I could finish, he goes, I met you on Lafayette Street. He said, yeah, and that's where I'd met him at. I'd met him about 12 years earlier on Lafayette Street. And here, he just remembered it. He got that wild brain. Some people have that. They got that hero circuit board. He could be an alien. Now, I wouldn't put it past John Mayer to be an alien. And I don't mean that in a negative alien or something. I just mean that as a basic regular alien. Because the man has a lot of skills. I've seen him do stand-up comedy. He's pretty, he does a good job with that. But he just has that brain, he's got that brain that's on that next level. He's like, we're all using a push mower and he's running on a weed whacker. He's just got one of those wild brains. And I think if there were aliens amongst us, that's probably what they would have. Because that would go under the radar. If you see something out in the distance, with 4 arms, we already shoot things with antlers. So even if something shows up with an antler, it's fucking clock, It's taking a couple slugs to the dome, you know what I'm saying? It's all of a sudden, for every, buck or wildebeest out there, it's, every night is Detroit. Every night is Detroit. Or every night is Chicago or New Orleans for them, for those animals, because they could get popped all the time. But anyhow, he has that brain. He just remembered, And then we talked the other night for a little bit, and it was we just talked about dating and relationships and that kind of thing. But anyhow, just a crazy week, man. That's just and that was this weekend. That was Thursday and Friday night, and that was this weekend. But I'm gonna check in on the game. I'll be back in just a second. You won't notice, and I'm back. Wow. So. That was that halftime show. That's what I saw up until. And some good offense out there, man. The game's looking pretty tight. Philadelphia just looks fearless out there. They don't look like there's a lot of intimidation, that these are the Patriots. You can see the Patriots' age a little bit showing. Brady still is, the guy's 6'7", so he's throwing from, it's like throwing from the second floor of a building. So he have that, that ability. Even when he's throwing downfield, it's like he's throwing downhill all day. He can throw a 30-yard pass and it's downhill. He just has that, he's got that ability. And that's what happened when you get that little lip lock from your son, you get that extra ability, I bet. He got that son love in him. He's got that vibe, And I saw the halftime show, and it was good, man. I thought it was good. I thought that Timberlake just really, he's like the closest thing we got to a black guy, I think, as white people. I used to think it was Michael Rappaport, but it's not him. I think Timberlake's the closest. When I was young, it was Rappaport was kind of that guy. You remember he was in a lot of, he always played the black-white guy, or the white guy in the black, in a lot of black shows. But Timberlake's, he's the closest thing that we got. I think he's the closest thing that we got. I thought he did a great job of just entertaining, and I thought he heated up as it went on. We started off, he seemed a little bit, he looked, he seemed however old he was, and by the time he got to the end, I'm like, damn, this boy, he might be about 14 now. If he performs for another 5 minutes, he's gonna end up back on the Mickey Mouse Club, because he was running on a lot of good cylinders there. So that's it, man. That's all I got really about that. The game's still going on. Hold on. A little bit of our intro music popping in. The game's still going on, and I'll check back in a little bit. But Philadelphia was up by, I think, 8 or 10. So let's get back into it, man. We're going to crack into some of these calls in just a minute, but I wanted to give you guys a state of the podcast address. And that's just basically kind of like what's going on with the podcast, where we're at, and what's cracking. Overall, things are going really good, I want to say that, 100%. The listenership is up. We're getting, we're up to like a decent number. We'd love to get to try to get to, more subscribers on YouTube. But I wanted to talk to you about some of the stuff that's kind of going on and some of the stuff that's going to be happening, And really, it's just trying to get back to the simplicity of when the show started. And that's something I wanted to do this week, was just kind of, just be here by myself doing it. Because that's really what it's all about. And I wanted to thank you guys for your support and for, just for, a lot of calls. A lot of guys calling in about some real things that are going on. And and it helps me stay grounded and helps me think about, people's lives outside of my own. Because that's when I'm the best as a person, I find, when I'm not thinking about myself. Because, I have that infection. I have that infection of ego. And it's built into us. And that infection makes me think about myself a lot of times. So I just want to let you guys know that this is going to continue to be a safe place. I'm going to get back in and check in the voicemails again, so that I know, exactly who's calling in and what's going on. It's a buddy of mine's brother. Sorry, my phone's hooked up. And we're going to keep, a lot of guys were here whenever we started. A lot of those OG, Tom from North Carolina, One Leg Pat, JP, Animal Guy. He's going to be calling back in. I just got a picture. He sent me a picture yesterday of his stepdaddy kind of, getting into an argument with an alligator, a small alligator or a fucking strong lizard, one or the other. Rico from New Hampshire, everybody. Jimmy Diamora, who sent in, who sent in a lot of audio for us to check out. Anybody that submitted music, Jesse Lucero, Starlight Stevie, who sent that stuff in last week, who sent that hitter in last week. The YouTubers, Johnson 543, Johnson 543. Anybody. I'm just saying, people who've been a part, we're going to keep, we want to keep that localized vibe. So that's some of the goal. Trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. We have some goals in the big picture. What out? And then to continue to try to do new stuff. I had the studio's a little bit bigger. You guys can't see it, but we're going to try to have a guest on and just see how that feels. I still get nervous sometimes just talking to somebody. So to talk to somebody and do it in front of other people, it's baby steps for me, some of this stuff. But, to try to continue to do this past Thursday every week, to do a follow-up. Because there's been some cool stuff, some cool men and women out there calling in with stuff that's going on in their lives, and us being able to discuss it as a group. So I just want to let you guys know that that's kind of what's going on. And really, all that it is not much. Just trying to stick with the same thing. By the end of the year, I'd love to have all my own equipment, that we own. And I want to thank everybody on Patreon who helps out and supports there. That money, as soon as this freaking lens comes in, because some assholes who are selling lenses out there aren't doing shit on the up and up. Because I've ordered these lenses and they haven't come in, so we can't activate the second camera yet. But it's trial and error. And I want to thank Gray Block Pizza because they've been there, and they've been supportive all year. And I'm just really grateful because it's things like that are helping us. And by the end of the year, maybe be in a studio, being in an actual, an on-site location somewhere where we can do some real gang type stuff, 420 Gucci Gang all day. So that. So that's some things that are going on, and that's just the state of the podcast address. And really, it's just a thank you for you guys' support. Thank you, Gray Block. Thank you, everybody. Here we go. So let's get into it, man. I already told you guys what happened this past weekend, man. Ran across a lot of straight up superstars who could be aliens, who have that ability. What if somebody came? What if you got a message one day in your inbox and it said that you were an alien? Could you handle it? Seriously, man. Some of y'all are like, what the fuck's Theo talking about? I'll tell you what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. I'm talking about real shit. I'm talking about things that could be possible, man. You don't think, look at us. We're in space, brosy and chick and ladies. We're in space. You don't think somebody out here could be milling around as a fucking alien? Walking around at night by themselves? Fucking drinking gasoline and chocolate milk? And, they could probably do crazy stuff. Hide inside their own ass. Who knows? I've seen crazier shit, man. I've seen crazy shit. Dude, I knew a blind kid that could fucking jump high. And I used to fight him. And so until you've been through shit like that, when you go through stuff like that, you start to believe what's possible out there. You go fight a blind kid that could jump high, dude. He's got the aggression of a Wolverine. And that's a bull and a Wolverine, you ass. And I'm sorry to get heated, man, but I think the one thing that if we did have aliens now, they would admit it. They would say I'm an alien. Aliens in the past? No. There would be people would hunt them, pitchfork them. People, fucking some people can't even, talk to somebody who drinks Pepsi if they're a Coke drinker. So, 20 years ago, people couldn't have handled somebody, slipping them off to the side and saying, guess what? Daddy's on that alien tip, Daddy's out there at night fucking snorting stardust, dude. And eating fucking pieces of glass in the garage, because the orb in the distance says he has to. We couldn't have handled it. But now if an alien were here, I think not only would we handle it, he'd be like, he would just probably, he'd be like The Rock. He'd be like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but he would have, he'd have millions of Twitter followers and Instagram followers and everything. He would just have fans now. And if he was an alien now, he would admit it. He'd be like, look, I'm an alien, so give me all the free shit. I'm awesome, But let's get into the rest of the podcast, man. Let's get into the rest of it. We had Mickey call in, dude. So many great calls came in from my boy Mickey. Sweet Mickey, boy. And Mickey's out there running down. His lungs are run down. And so we're going to listen to a little bit of Mickey right here. Take a hit off of Mickey.
Hey, yo, Theo, man. This is Mickey calling from Seattle. So here's my situation, man. I'm 30 years old, and I'm currently at the end stage of a lung disease. Now, my current lungs don't have very long left, probably about 2.5 years. Hopefully, we can stretch them out, but...
So, and this came in on Thursday's episode. I'm just playing it against us in case some of you guys didn't hear it. Mickey got them empty hitters, man. You ever had a gallon of milk, and it gets to the end, and you're shaking it like that, just see how much milk is still in there? And that's where Mickey's at. Onward.
The silver lining is that I'm going to be soon on the lung transplant list. I'm hoping. I'm going to get listed, which will give me a few more years to figure this whole thing out.
That's what I'm saying. So Mickey's trying to get that time. And I texted with Mickey the other day, and he said he appreciated, how we discussed it last week on the cast and that we had a good time. And we just talked openly about what's going on, about what's going on with his life. And he's on the, that he's running light on air. Because we've all been somewhere. We've all been running a little bit light on something, But Mickey's got them ticking. He's got them tickers in him. And those things are just tick-tocking the whole time. And so he's hoping to get on that transplant list. And I know that that's a special moment, man, when that happens, that you get on that list and you have that, you have that hope. And we're certainly going to wish that for you. And I even texted Mickey. I said, look, man, we'll try to find you a lung through the podcast, Because there's been some callers out there. Fucking my boy JP down in Alabama, he's only have one leg. So he probably wouldn't, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he probably wouldn't mind, coming in on fucking, one fucking, air tit. You know what I'm saying? That lung. Let's hear a little more, Mickey.
And it's been a really difficult time, and I've been single through it. My question to you, man, is during this difficult time that's really ruined my confidence, I wanted to ask you and the viewers what they think. What are some good steps that I can take to start boosting my confidence and my self-worth?
There you go. Man, and you know what this makes me think, man, honestly, is that it's so wild that we are in a time where men are struggling so much with their self-confidence and self-worth. That even it's like no matter what is going on. I mean, here is Mickey with a real ailment. This is something that is probably very rare. I remember when my sister needed a liver, it was, one in like a million children was born with the issue that she had. And I don't even know what Mickey did. I don't know. Some people blow through their own stuff. You might, if he's out there fucking huffing gas or something or doing that kind of shit and blowing through his lungs, then that's different. But if this is something that, that came into him by nature, then that's another different, and that's more real. But, here you are, you have this thing going on, man, and you're dealing with the same stuff still. It's just wild. It's wild that, that it's like no matter who we are, that sometimes there's so many problems that are, that just connect us all. You could have somebody out there with no head or no arms and legs, and they would still be worrying about self-confidence, and these sorts of things, man. And it just, I don't know how it makes me feel. Man, it makes me feel, I guess, a little bit, I don't know if I want to say, not ungrateful, but it makes me feel a little disappointed maybe in myself. That here I am and I'm healthier than Mickey is right now. And that I'm not taking all the steps I could take all the time to try and boost my own self-confidence and stuff like that. Even though I know it's not one of those things that's, that's always easily fixable. But it's like here I am just, here I am. I don't have a ticking time. I don't have, two ticking time bombs in my body. I'm not on the clock. And so since that's the case, I'm not worried about as much about, always getting myself to wellness. Whereas here's Mickey's out there. He's on the clock. And one of the things he wants to do, he wants to man up in case he doesn't have the opportunity to stick around. He wants to defeat that self-confidence, And, man, it's just, I can't imagine what you've been through. But some of our listeners have some thoughts for you and some suggestions. And we're going to crack in a little bit that right now. Here we go, Mickey.
Yeah, it's Ricky Dickey from Pittsburgh.
Oh, and this is Ricky Dickey from Pittsburgh. And I've never even, I don't know, I guess that's your real name. I'm not even sure, brother. I don't think I ever called anybody Ricky Dickey. Onward.
I'm calling in to talk about our boy Mickey and the lungs. And I think his best bet might be to find someone with, another ailment, someone that needs a kidney or a liver, or they need lungs, and they could breathe life into each other. No pun intended.
Well, I mean, it seems like obvious pun intended right there, but you know what, man? You might be right. You know, it is funny how if you have somebody that has some of the same issues, that it brings you together. And that's one thing that sharing issues does, man. When we're able to share, like, what makes us hurt. You know, when you're able to share that with somebody, it's crazy how it brings you together. You know, I've noticed that in brief moments with dating and stuff like that, when I'm actually able to try and voice what is going on, what scares me, that it ends up, instead of thinking, fuck, I'm going to say this and this person is going to hate me, or this person is not going to care about me anymore. Instead, it just makes them understand me. And so much care usually comes out of understanding that it's fascinating. So you may be onto something there. You know, that sometimes you can see what you know the feeling of, and you see it in somebody else. And if you're able to be a good partner for that person because you can understand them the best, because you're saddling up on those feelings and riding that similar vibe, whatever it is, every day. Now, if you're talking about just mix and matching people, that's Frankensteinian. You know what I'm saying? If you're talking about finding somebody with a one leg and somebody with a different leg and matching them up, then that's wild. You know, that's just, it makes sense if you're charting, if you're, doing a drawing, and if you're trying to, if you're doing a human puzzle, a puzzle made out of humans. But it doesn't make sense realistically, I don't think. But I don't know. If you had somebody that, their heart didn't work and yet somebody's brain didn't work, and you put them together, could make beauty. But that's Ricky Dickey out of Pittsburgh, man. Mickey, that's a little bit of some suggestions from Mickey. And also, I know I'm going to be in Tacoma, and I'm going to be in Tacoma, and I'm announcing it right now, the 15th and 16th. That's Thursday and Friday, and that's outside of Seattle. And Tacoma, and we're going to try to get a date for Mickey, because, in the rest of his call, if you listened last week, he talks about he wants to have more confidence. He'd like to fall in love. He'd like to meet a lady. And he wasn't talking about sex. He wasn't talking about, just reaching down into some moist, touching that moist. He was talking about being out there and maybe looking for some love. Look, he was out there trying to get up in that, that baritone maker in between those ribs. And that's the heart. So just a lot going on in this, man. Let's listen to another call that came in right here. But we're going to try to set Mickey up there in Tacoma. So if you have somebody out there in Tacoma who's a lady, and she's got, you know what I'm saying? She don't mind a little guy who's, maybe, who might, have to take an early break during sex, then maybe you could set us up and get my boy Mickey out there, and let's, maybe him will go, and him, and I'll bring a lady or something, and we'll take some ladies out on a double date or something. Or we'll just set them up and let him and this girl go out there and have a good time, But no matter what, Mickey's going to be my guest up there in Tacoma, man, and I'm looking forward to it. We texted about it. He said he's going to keep his schedule open. Let's hear some other calls you guys had for him. Here we go.
Hey, Theo, this is Jason calling from California in regards to the guy who's waiting for a lung transplant.
Yeah, that guy's Mickey, brother. Okay? Thanks for calling, Jason. Onward.
He's asking how he could be more confident. There's absolutely, totally a way that he can be confident just as much as the rest of us. Because I think at the end of the day, the person who has the most integrity, who is the most true to their soul, that is like the most real man that you can be. And if you're ever in the presence of a person who is just authentically empowered, with no guilt, with total integrity, total devotion to just doing the right thing for all who are involved, there is a sense of energy that person carries that even a very large, confident bodybuilder would have to kind of recognize that.
Wow. Wow, man. I think you might have just put everybody on blast right there. Like in our hearts, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that was that was awesome, Jason. I appreciate that. Let's listen to the end of this, and then I'll...
And respect it. Lack of confidence, I would start to really build up personal integrity, start helping people, start making people feel better, and start being the one person who is brave enough to be nice and do the righteous thing, especially if you only have a few years left. That could be your gift.
Wow. Man, I don't even know what to say, really. I mean, that's, that's why I'm the middleman here. Because I don't have that. I don't have those words inside of me like that man did right there. But if for some reason when he said that, I know that's the truth. When you have that, when you are the truest, man, it's like you're surfing your own. It's like surfing on your own semen, bro. And I don't mean to be crass, but I bet that's how it feels. When you are guilt-free and you are living in the place where you are just going to be righteous. You're going to try your best. Now the problem is when you do that, it's just that's when that ego starts taking hits off of your righteous after you doing the right things and starts telling it, oh, I do the right things. And that's where the ego comes in. But man, to live clean and free like that, and maybe I'm talking because I've never done that, I mean, I've never lived completely, out of debt emotionally or out of debt spiritually. I'm in spiritual debt. And I'm not coming at you in like a religious way or anything, but I just know in my heart that, that there's, I got a couple of outsiders living in my heart. You know what I'm saying? But I know that that's the right answer. That if you build up that integrity, man, you build up that 100%, that people can smell that on you. Let's thank you for that call. Let's take one more. Here we go.
Yo, what's good, bruh? This is Pennsylvania Pete.
Pennsylvania Pete. I've never called anybody that. Let's hear more.
I'm calling in response to your boy, Trick Lung Mickey.
TLM, baby. And if you want to see the call specifically from Mickey and my thoughts on it, that's on YouTube's out there. Onward.
I'm not in his personal situation, so I can't say how it would be to overcome, the fear of death in such a short time span, and then how to talk to women. But I feel like, the best bet for him to do would be to accept it as quick as he can. Start joking about it, right? And then once you start joking about it, I don't know if you'll ever be able to really accept it, because I think that's the thing that everyone, has troubles dealing with, the fear of dying. It's so scary. But, the best thing maybe to just, come to terms with it. And then.
Well, I mean, look, I think Mickey's called up confident as fuck, dude. Pennsylvania Pete. And I will call you that now. I think Mickey called up 100 about his activity, I mean, this guy's out there. I mean, he's being brave. He could just lay on the internet and jerk off, dude. And get exhausted quick and just, rest a little and then jerk off again. But he's not doing that. He's saying he wants more. He wants more than his present lungs can hold. You know what I'm saying? He wants to double down on his own life. That's what he wants to do. He's willing to take that risk. He's asking the universe, I want love. Because I'm going to get on that transplant list. I'm going to get that second. I'm going to get 4 lungs. Fucking Tricky Mickey's going to be a damn amphibian come 2022. That boy's going to be out there fucking backstroking in your lake and banging your sister and stepmom at the same time. So freaking, I mean, Pennsylvania Pete accepted and moved. I mean, like, I feel you. It sounds like he's accepted it, though. It sounds like he's accepted it. Maybe you got to accept Big Petey. Maybe you got to accept, maybe you sitting around your room looking, you got 3 or 4 sisters or siblings in the house, female siblings, and you thinking, oh, damn. Maybe you're scared that somebody with as much integrity as Sweet Mickey has out there, that when he gets sucrosed up with them new airbags, that he's going to come to your house And he's going to give you a bunch of nieces and nephews, you know, because that is a lover boy. So you might be living in fear, Pete. Anyway, I didn't mean to get fired up, though. I do appreciate everybody's call, and I always do. Let's take one more. Let's hit another call here, man. Here we go.
What's up, Theo? This is TJ, and I'm calling in about that Mickey was fuming on them low tanks of gas.
Yeah, I feel you, TJ. Thanks for calling, dude. You honestly sound like you have less time to be alive than Mickey, bro, to be honest with you, bro. No shame, you know? And look, and Mickey and I texted the other day about joking around, and he was cool, man. He said it was, you know, he laughed, and he'd been having a laugh, and he'd been sharing this experience with his friends. And look, that's where I'm from. So sometimes if somebody's like, man, you joke about shit that's too real, well, guess what? You know, I didn't choose that for myself always. And I do know that it is a problem that I have. Sometimes I do joke when things shouldn't be joked about, you know? But I mean, I grew up, man. My dad was 70 when I was born. You know that. My sister had a liver, was not on the liver list. You know, I mean, she laid in the crib, dude. She was green and yellow and different colors for 5-6 years. You know, had so many scars on her body. Looked like a damn, you know, looked like a scarecrow. Looked like the child of a scarecrow. You know, so my first thoughts growing up was that everybody's dying. You know, I'm not trying to glum anybody out, but I'm trying to let you know where some of my sense of humor comes from. You know, so you don't think I'm just out here. That's where my sense of humor got made. That if I wasn't able to find some joy in that, you know, and going up to my dad and not knowing each time if he's alive or just, you know, resting. He'd have friends come over, both of them fall asleep on the couch. And I'm thinking we got a carbon monoxide leak in the house. But the truth is, both of them are just in their late 70s. And they just were having a conversation, and one of them didn't talk for a little bit, and both of them dozed off. But TJ, man, you sound like you might need a spare lung, but let's hear more. Thank you for calling, TJ.
You know, my best advice would be maybe if he could go on one of these dating sites, you know, his online dating sites, and just kind of explain his situation, like, so, you know, whoever knows his situation right off the bat, because the worst thing you can do is get, you know, attached to a girl and get really serious with her, you know, and she wants to spend the rest of her life with you, and then 2 years down the road, you're dead. I hope that doesn't happen, you know what I'm saying? But I think that would be the best thing, to just explain your situation. You're going through a hard time. You want some companionship. And yeah, man. Anyway, that's my advice. Love you, podcast, bro.
Thank you, TJ, man, and I love you, bud. I'm sorry, I've been a little fired up this episode, you know. But you know, and look, here's the thing. TJ brings up a good point because, look, Mickey, I'll tell you this, brother. We're all on dating apps. Everybody's out there on them. You know, so that's not like, you know, I don't want you to think that. And look, man, I'm not trying to, I mean, I can't imagine what you're having to deal with, Mickey. You know, here you are sharing something that's the realest thing. You know, somebody turns on the egg timer turns an egg timer on inside of your body. You know, and here you are sharing that with us and letting us talk about that and think about that, you know, and even joke about it. And so I want to say thank you for letting us do that. But the thing is also, I don't want you to think you're missing out on some magical universe where, you know, air capable people, you know, people that are fully air capable are, you know, out here just dating and, you know, and everything's easy peasy. Part of the problem is things have changed now. And so we're all out here on these electronics. We're all kind of becoming alien to each other. You know, speaking of aliens, we're all kind of becoming alien to each other. So, you know, it is tough. It's tough out here for a lot of people. But, you know, I'll say this, man, a lot women, and this might be a weird way to look at it, but women love a project. Women love a man they can rescue. Women love, you know, and women also, this is a dark way to put it, kind of women love fucking death and murder and stuff. Every woman I know has seen every episode of Dateline ever. I mean, I secretly think that women want to get murdered. And I don't mean that in like a Me Too or any of that time's up. I'm not talking about anything like that. But I think that women secretly have this fascination with, getting almost murdered. Let's say that. Because they're all watching it all the time. And so, you know what I'm saying? You have that mysterious element. If I want to be mysterious, I got to fucking put on like a dark bonnet or get a hammer or something. But if you want to be mysterious, Mickey, you just roll up. You know what I'm saying? And your freaking lungs, I mean, roll up with a picture of your lungs. Fucking show her that picture. Like, look, baby girl, these things, a couple of A cups right here I'm running on, a couple of fucking bat wings left in your boy. So why don't you and me, why don't we see at least how deep my heart is? I mean, you can make a pickup line that could be deeper than anything. Like, hey, honey, my lungs don't work, so I'm going to have to smell you with my heart. So I'm going to have to hold your scent in my heart. And that's that third lung, man, that heart. That's that lung that holds, the air that holds our most important air. And you sound like you got a big one of those. But man, you've just had me thinking all week, man. You've had me thinking, and I appreciate it, Mickey. And I look forward to seeing you in Tacoma. And if you guys have somebody you think it would be good to set up for Mickey, email me. And that's just THEOVONK@MAC.com. And they got to live up in Tacoma or Seattle. Don't send me somebody from fucking Indiana. We ain't bussing in some muppet from Indiana. You know what I'm saying? Some chick that's just got out the system or something. Or some broad out them halfway houses. We're not doing all of that shit. This ain't a fucking, we ain't trying to, bring somebody's clout up. We ain't trying to greyhound some bitch out from Evansville. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about, let's find him a decent woman who may be interested in a man that is a man. He ain't coming in light in any loafers. He's coming in heavy in the heart. And maybe a little light in the lungs. All right, guys, let's take this call right here. Here we go. This was a separate call that came in.
Hey, Theo, what's going on, man? Love the show. This is Cooper. I'm wondering if you can maybe help me out with a personal problem.
All right, Cooper, thank you for calling. Onward.
Just speaking from your life experience, have you ever been dating a real fiery, spicy Latina, maybe a Caribbean girl, like a real exotic girl? Maybe she's got like a pet parrot at home. I'm just wondering, how do you deal with the bird when it's heckling you during sex?
All right. So I think that's obviously joking around us. Cooper, calling about a bird. So that's irony. Cooper, bird coop. And I'll say this, dude. A spicy Latina or Caribbean woman. Okay. Probably different things, dude. Go down to the Caribbean, bruh. I'd love to see you go down there, sweet coop. Let me tell you what happened to me one time. Down in the Caribbean or in Jamaica or somewhere. Okay? I go into a Starbucks. Dude, they had a sign outside that says Starbucks. I walk in. There's a lady back in there. Looks kind of weird in there. There's a lady. She's like, welcome to the Starbucks Lounge. Can I get you a smoothie? It wasn't even a Starbucks, dude. Somebody'd stolen a Starbucks sign, put it up outside of a fucking smoothie center. I don't know what the fuck it was, dude. And then I ordered it, gave the lady some money. She fucking went out the back. Rap. Never saw it. Waited 20 minutes. Went out in the street. And there was about a block away, there was literally a knife fight right in front of me. Two dudes fighting with knives, which, very fun to watch. Watching dudes fight with knives, bro, it is damn, I mean, it's that fucking killer capoeira right there. And it was pretty fun. And then one of them chased the other one down the street. But I like to see you out there doing all of that, Mr. Coop. And also I made love to a girl in Denver years ago. This blonde girl. and she lived at a high altitude, and she had a gray parrotlet, and a lot of parrotlets, I believe, are from South America. And it would actually be on my shoulder once in a while when we were making love. But that's not hard to be, because I'm not good at making love. So, easy place for a bird to roost. But anyhow, all right. Let's get this one last call in, and I want to let you guys know some dates that I'm going to be performing. I will be in Portland, Oregon, and that is this weekend at Harvey's Comedy Club. And you can find that tickets to that on theovon.com/tour, TOUR. As well, next weekend I'll be in La Jolla at the Comedy Store. After that, the 23rd and 24th of February, I'll be in Fantasy Springs Casino. And then the 15th and 16th, I'll be in Tacoma there in Washington. The 17th, I'll be in Spokane, and those are of March 15th through 17th. March 23rd and 20 through 25th, I'll be in Oxnard, California at Levity Live. And then in April, I'll be at Bananas Comedy, and that's in New Jersey somewhere. I'm not sure where. And then also, I got this little announcement. I guess it's an announcement. I'm going to be shooting a movie, a film. It's a small, it's a $1 million budget. And I'm going to be shooting with Thomas Ian Nicholson. Let me see. Thomas Ian Nicholas. Sorry. Thomas Ian Nicholas. And you can check him out, and you'll remember him from a lot of films. He was in that movie where they have the pitcher that breaks his arm, and then he throws the arm in from the outfield, and he throws it really fast, and he gets a job working for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I'm going to be shooting a movie with him called Bitcoin, and yeah, Thomas Ian Nicholas. And I went to his film premiere the other night. It was really, really great. Super nice guy, and I'm looking forward to that. And he is the same age as me, and we'll be shooting that in Albuquerque in May. So that's pretty cool, man. I'm excited about that opportunity to work with him. He was in that movie, and I can't remember the name of that. He's been in so many films, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole him. He was also in American Pie and the American Pie series. But I don't watch a ton of films, and that's what I remember him from. But so, yeah, it should be cool. Should be cool to do that. I'm looking forward to it. Now, with movies in Hollywood, shit don't always come to fruition. But as of right now, it's all contracted out, and we are ready to rock. So looking forward to that. All right, man, let's take one more call here. And this is this call, I already know what it's about. And I just want to get some advice. Let's see what he says. Here we go. Onward.
Hey, Theo. This is James from Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm calling because I've got a little bit of dark arts on my mind.
And I appreciate you calling, James. And I've been in Omaha, dude, and I've honestly masturbated outside of that city a couple times. And I've actually, and I'll do an update real quick. I've been struggling still with the adult masturbation. Touching myself, not others. And it's been, I'd been doing well, and then last night I fell off. I fell off that jerk wagon. But I'm trying to get back on it. I'm not giving up. And I just wanted to update and kind of come clean about that, and be out here where I am, But I appreciate you calling in here, James, with your dark arts issue. Here we go. Onward.
So I'm 21 years old. I have a girlfriend who I've been dating for about 3 years now.
Oh, wow. So that's that young love. And that's beautiful, man. If you're in young love, sometimes that's the love that's dangerous. People get murdered at that age in love, Onward.
It's a pretty serious relationship. I just see myself being with her the rest of my life. But
wow. And you know what? Good for you, man. Because that's brave, dude. That's bravery, bro. Onward.
There's this thing on my mind where, you see, I lost my virginity to her. I've never been sexually with another woman before.
Okay. So this is your lady. That's your girl. And that's called I think it's called a golden Oreo. When you've only had sex with one person and y'all are gonna, and you guys are together, and you guys are gonna, when you're married to somebody you only have had sex with one person, I'm pretty sure it's called a golden Oreo. Onward.
The same is it's not the same for her. She did not lose her virginity to me. She hooked up with several guys before she met me.
Okay. So she's a little bit more of a nut or butter, you know? And that's okay, man. That's okay. Onward.
And so basically, you know, I don't know how I feel about potentially spending the rest of my life with this woman and, you know, not ever having sex with anybody else. Part of me thinks I should be okay with this. You know, that perfect 1-0 record is probably something a lot of guys wish they had. But for me, it's just like, man, there's so much out there sexually, so many sexual experiences that I feel like, man, I might be missing out on, you know?
And that's the end of the call. Wow. That's a big issue, a big question, not an issue. Sorry, that's a big question. It's a big call, James, and I appreciate you calling. You know that I was in your position when I was young, man. When I went off to college, I was dating a girl, and I'd lost my virginity to her outside of a bowling alley, actually. You know, and people were throwing rocks at us and all kinds of shit, and it was a different time back then, and it was more of a rural time. You know, there's more gravel. But, you know, and I was jealous, and I couldn't get over the jealousy. And it really had nothing to do with her. That just had to do with me, you know? And here's the thing, yeah, you can get out there and experience more dating, more sexualness. There's that opportunity, man. That is out there. That's out there for you if you want it. But there's something nice if you love someone that is hard to find again. It's hard to find. You know, I believe that. I believe that is hard to find. You can't just always fall in love. You can date somebody and make a relationship, but you can't always fall in love. Like, that's really the tough thing. So I think you have to look at what you have. Is the grass greener out there? I don't know. And only you know that for yourself. If you're honest with your girl, you could say, look, I feel like I need to explore more things. You know? You could tell her that. I'm not ready. I want to sow my oats a little bit. You don't have to phrase it like that so it's sexual, but you could tell her that. You could let her know. Because if you just were to cut ties with her, then that's tricky. You know, then she's not going to know why. She's not going to know what's going on. And getting earnest with her is really where you're going to be able to prosper, even though it's going to be the tough part. I want to listen to your call one more time. The second half of it. Here we go.
Before. The same is it's not the same for her. She did not lose her virginity to me. She hooked up with several guys before she met me. And so basically, you know, I don't know how I feel about potentially spending the rest of my life with this woman and, you know, not ever having sex with anybody else. Part of me thinks I should be okay with this. You know, that perfect 1-0 record is probably something a lot of guys wish they had. But for me, it's just like, man, there's so much out there sexually, so many sexual experiences that I feel like, man, I might be missing out on.
Right. Okay, and there you go, man. And so I just wanted to hear it again because sometimes I'm kind of ignorant, you know, and I got to hear it again. That 1-0 record is good. Look, man, there's something beautiful about that bliss, man. About that ignorance and it's not ignorance, but the sexual ignorance is, because here's the thing. You get out there, you start comparing, you start contrasting. Now, I hope you're not you're comparing things to pornography. If you're doing that, you got to hold that line, bucko. Because the things that happen in pornography are not happening in regular people's sexual activity. You know, you see pornography and it's, it's all that action. And they got elbows and titties and, you know, people with, you know, freelance buttholes and all kinds of activity. But in real life, dude, it's fucking awkward and, somebody just had dinner and they had capers and they got a belch and it's fucking, you had a Pepsi and there's dog shit in the corner of the room and there's, there's a lot of other, there's the reality. This one's a tough one for me, man. So I'm going to put this one out to our callers and I'll chime in on this one next week because that's a real deal. That is a real deal when you're out there. And, I had a girl that I was in love with in high school. And, and I lost my virginity to her. And I lost my virginity behind, a bowling alley standing up. And people were throwing rocks and all kinds of shit at us. Very Gaza Strip, if you will. And, but I remember being jealous that this woman had more partners than I had. But it didn't have anything to do with her. That was all on me. So the jealousy, if you have jealousy, it's your thing. Now, how do you handle that and deal with that at your age? Who knows? I don't know. I didn't handle it well. I was angry at her. I resented her. But I had no tools for solving any emotional or relationship problems. I had zero tools. I was flight or fight or fuck. I think maybe might be the third one. Or just fiddle. And I would just kind of fiddle with my fingers and just be, kind of loitering and be awkward and shit. And I also hid outside of a girl's place one time and petted a cat out there in South Carolina, doing some light stalking, and I will apologize for that. But let's put that one out to the callers, man. We'll put that one out to the callers. If you have some suggestions for James, 985-664-9503. That is the hotline. I want to thank everybody that's been a part of the podcast that's been helping. We do have exciting stuff happening for the next year. Things are slowly going on. And I'm just grateful to be here with you guys. I'm going to go watch the end of the Super Bowl. I was going to watch and come back and talk to you guys again, but, I feel like we've had a good episode. There's been a lot of information, I feel like maybe, and kind of coming full circle about aliens, I feel like maybe we're becoming aliens. Maybe we're becoming aliens. And I think that's why part of me wants to tell James just to stay in there and work it out with your lady. That's why part of me wants to say, let's find a couple of options, or let's find a girl, at least a date for my boy Mickey. Because, man, we're letting love go. We're giving up on it easy. We're giving up on it easy. And it's not fair for me to tell you that, James, really, because I haven't done that in my life. But it doesn't mean always that because I haven't, it doesn't mean that I can't now. Because it's tough. I know it's tough for a lot of men out there. To stay in love and to commit to love. But damn, maybe that's our battle these days. Because we are becoming aliens and alien to the things that make us human. Connection. And I feel it. I'm not accusing anybody of it. I mean, I am guilty as the rest, man. We out there in these emo streets, man. We out there in these love streets. But we're not alone, bro. Gang, you feel me? All right, man, I'll see you guys in Portland this week. I'll have an episode up. Thursday, I'm going out of town. I'll have an episode up Thursday. We'll follow up and put these calls out to James. And you guys be good to yourselves. You know what I'm saying? You probably deserve it. And if you don't, we'll start asking ourselves, how can I deserve more? And how can I have a little bit more integrity? Because that's something that we can all gain. And thank you guys for the calls. Thank everybody. I was in Illinois, so I'll talk about that too. But Super Bowl, did you see it? Of course you did. If you didn't see the Super Bowl, I've come to this conclusion. Like, if you don't watch a Super Bowl, something's going on with you. Because I have a friend, anytime I say the game is on, it could be any day of the year, and he's always like, is it the Super Bowl? Nah, bro, it's not. Super Bowl's on once a year. You get together with people you know or people you don't know, and you just share the same air and watch the game. It was a game, man. It was a game. Couple things I noticed, dude. First of all, I thought it was boring. The first half, I thought it was just boring. I'm like, there's so many commercials. You're just interrupted constantly. There's just such an ulterior motive to the game commercially. They're just peddling this and peddling that and pushing new movies and blah, 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 blah. It gets a little hectic. So that was hectic. But that comeback, man. I mean, they came back. I mean, did you really think that they could come back? I mean, at halftime, I was like, even by the end of the third quarter, I was like, this is miserable. This is miserable. I'll say this. Did you see Tom Brady had a zit on his neck, bruh? A Z on his end, dude. If you look at some pictures, some interviews, he had a little zit on the left. Not even little, decent sized. And man, how do you go on the biggest stage in the world with a zit on your neck? Dude, if I have a zit on my neck, I'll scarf up. I'll wear a collar. It'll be summer, and I'll wear like a high collar. Hell, I might join the priesthood online, get doctrinated or whatever, and just so I can just lace up a dope priest collar just to have a little bit of coverage, man. I mean, I can't. I get scared to talk to people. I talk to people like this. Like I'll bring my shoulders up real high and just try to hide my neck. But he didn't do that, dude. Not only did he not do that, he took his zit out there, up and down that field, and he won his 5th Super Bowl ring. And at the end, he hit his knees. You could see at the end of the game, if you saw it, Brady hits his knees, and he's just overwhelmed. And I felt like he was probably overwhelmed just with probably the blessings that he's felt. I mean, can you imagine how blessed that man must feel? I mean, to have that, just to even, first of all, to even have the ability to do that, to get the opportunity, the achievement within playing football, and then to win that many Super Bowl rings. I mean, he's the GOAT. I put on my Instagram yesterday a picture of him with a goat because there's a famous picture of him going around where he gets a beautiful barn animal, and I think it looks like a young goat. Somebody said it's like a lamb that's not doing a lot of hair out their body, but I don't see that. I saw a goat, and he is, man. He's the GOAT, greatest of all time. I don't know how you argue it now. I don't know know if you do. That was exciting, man. The halftime performance, it didn't do it for me. I wanted more performers. I don't know if Lady Gaga's group hogged all the budget. I don't know if there wasn't a big budget this year. She seems uncomfortable. She reminds me of somebody dancing that can't really dance. So in some ways, it's kind of rewarding. You're like, damn, dude, I could be a halftime performer, because I don't really have a lot of moves. But she gets out there and just at some point there's like these erratic moves. Just look like like an aggressive gerbil. If you've seen aggressive hamster. If you've seen some of these new hamsters that they got, a lot of our hamsters these days are from Russia. I don't know if anybody's been caught up in the hamp game much, but I grew up selling hamsters. My first job selling hamsters. Some people know that. Some people do not. I used to sell hamsters, and because I grew up in a hamster breeding area, and they were beautiful hamsters. They were beautiful animals back then. Beautiful, just little. I mean, it was almost like Mother Nature's little, just dingleberries almost. I know that's a reach a little bit verbally, but you know what I'm saying. But now you go to the pet shops, dude. A lot of hamsters, they're getting them from Russia, bro, and they just look angry, and they got just water on the brain or something. A lot of them look like they might have alcoholism, which I know probably isn't realistic for an animal, but they just look like that. They look just temperamental, and they on the edge, and they can't handle their life, bro. And they're lean and just, but anyway, a lot of hamster mills, they're getting them from Russia. These new hamsters. I don't know what am I going off on here, but yeah, she looked erratic. Like she just looked like like there were, and then at the end where she just jumps into the abyss, man, it seemed like, like a child, like on his first dive into a pool or something. It was, I don't know. I just wanted to see. I would have loved to see Springsteen pop out or Willie Nelson. Hell, you know who else I would have loved to hear just pop out, man? I don't even know if he's alive, but if he is, this beautiful man, dude. You know who. Waylon Jennings. Would have loved to seen that. I just wanted to see some more camaraderie out there. Ray Shrimmer could have popped out. Yeah, so that was that, man. At halftime, I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And then the second half came, and I just felt at the end of the game, you felt bad for Matt Ryan. I mean, here's a young man, you could feel his like bravado building over the past month as a fan, just as anybody trying to accomplish something. And Atlanta's had some up and down, back and forth seasons over the past 5 years where they were kind of favorites and then not favorites, and just in underachieving and then overachieving this year. But the loss, man, you could just, that sense of loss, dude. That's heavy, man. Losing is heavy. And it made me think about times in my life when I've lost, bro. So, I'll stay in sports for a second here. When I was 12 years old, the first time I ever played organized sports, my mother saved a little bit of money, and for my birthday present was to get me into the Covington, that's my town, was my small town, recreational department. And I got into the basketball league. And it was great, man. And our team was the Celtics, and we wore uniforms that itched and made my skin real rashy. And it's hard I did pretty well. I made the little all-star team. And you want to say it's hard to shoot baskets regular? You do it when you got a rash. Everybody has a rash. I mean, we would call timeouts just to really scratch and just help each other scratch on the sidelines, dude. I don't know if those jerseys were, they could have been stored somewhere where there was, asbestos, or maybe stored near some fiberglass insulation, because the man that ran the league also had a small insulation firm. So we always had an inkling there was something else going on, but we'd be rashy. It's hard to shoot a three-pointer when you got a hot rash going, But it came down to the city championship, the game. At the end of the game, I was on the foul line. And I had 2 shots, and we were down by 2 points. So I needed both shots, and I missed the first one. And I was just in tears after, dude. I was in tears. It was my loss. I know that's just, I just felt brokenhearted. The coach was very consoling. He was a super consoling man. He was a real nice man. And I really befriended him and his family. And then I've actually broke into their house one time. I think I might have stole some shit, just in a fit of just weird behavior. But I stayed friends with them, still friends of mine. He's a good kind of father figure in my life at times. One time I remember I went to their house. There was rumored some man had come through town who was like a water drinking champion, some man had been spouting off. That's not even a play on words there, but you know what's up. Some man had been spouting off around town that he could drink more water than anybody, that he could, he'd just drop a straw into a puddle and just bring a puddle to its knees, So I'd heard this rumor, and I started training, I guess, really. Even though I'd never even met this man, dude. So when you're training based on a rumor you heard, in hindsight, that's bizarre behavior. But I started drinking as much water as I could, and just, if I saw, at dinner, I'd drink everybody else's at half glasses of water. I was just fired up, dog. I'd even just mean mug an aquarium if I saw one, because I would just I just wanted to be the champ, dude. I wanted to be the champ. And I went over to my coach's house one time, and I've been training, and my buddy was over there, his son, and I drank, I think, about a gallon of water straight, just tipped up a gallon right in front of the whole family, dude, in the living room. I just brought a gallon up to my jaws and dropped that water right into me in one fell sip. And I learned years later that actually drinking water consecutively like that, you can kill yourself. Because there's like a weird electrolytes transfer that goes on with your body. You can literally, you could turn up a gallon of water right now and possibly kill yourself if you drank the whole thing consecutively. And that's what I did. And then I went and took a nap in the bedroom. I felt just queasy and weird, just water high, man. I was high on water. And I laid down on the carpet and tried to take a nap, and I fell asleep, and then I urinated on the floor in my sleep. Because I was a bedwetter. I wet the bed till I was probably about 28 years old. And I remember this woke up in this huge pool of water. I mean, usually if you wet the bed, you had a little circle, but this had gotten, the diameter of this circle was probably, or the circumference, whatever it is, all the way across, probably about 8 feet. So I really doused them up. Anyhow, so that was a loss for me, losing the city championship in our little city, our town, you know. But that hurt, man. Another loss actually ties in. I was in Illinois this past weekend, one of my favorite states. My mother grew up out there in Illinois, and they're good people, man. Illinois is good people. They're considerate people, I feel like. There's a lot of family there. There's a lot of family values, and I respect that. I really like, I'd like to have a family like that one day. Now, with that said, the first time I went to, my grandparents lived up there, and sometimes we would take the train up, or my grandparents would come down and pick one of us children up and take us up there. And my brother and I went up one time, or I went up by myself. One time, actually, my grandparents came and picked me up, and then we were driving back up. It was just me and my grandparents, and somebody had, it started to smell like feces had hit the air in the van. We were in one of those vans that had the curtains on the windows. One of those, pretty decent van. It had one of those pool ladders on the back. Sometimes vans had a ladder on the back, like it was like a swimming pool at the top, but you got up there, and it was just more van. It was just like the top of a van. I don't know why anybody would want that, but anyway, they had that, that extra, that pool ladder to no pool, curtains on the windows, just kind of, just that high-end sort of senior citizen van. So anyway, it started to smell like feces in the van, and my grandmother asked me if I had, had a bowel movement, because that was her preferred communication realm word choice when it came to, talking feces. If I'd had a bowel movement, I said no. And then I guess my grandfather had maybe an accident. And anyway, we stopped at a rest area, and my grandmother made him go in the bathroom and check my pants. I was young. I was a child, 5 maybe. And then he came out, and he said that I did have one. He said that I did have a bowel movement. And he had. So I'm riding in that van, bro. I'd really been betrayed, and just, I guess I don't know if that's secondhand shit. I was dealing with basically secondhand shit. I'd secondhand shit myself. I was dealing with the shame of the smell in the air, but it wasn't me. I'm assuming it was him, unless they were in cahoots and my grandmother had done it, or who knows, maybe somebody just hidden some shit in the car. I don't know. But anyway, so that wasn't really a feeling of loss, but another feeling of loss was when I remember I was up at my grandparents' in this town called Wyoming, Illinois, small town. It's in Stark County, and I went to the park. They had a park across the street, and the park was named after somebody that had died. Because sometimes if you died but you did something decent, you get a park named after you, and that's pretty admirable, dude. I wouldn't mind having a little park named after me one day, but I don't want to die soon, so not yet. And I went over to this park, and I'm just walking around. They had swing sets, and they had a wishing well. And I've always really I've always loved wishing wells. And I probably, in the future, I could see myself going into, honestly, the the WW business, slanging them and, really bringing those back to, just back into the fold of hope, because they were just holes of hope. That's all I wish them well. It's just a hole of hope. So anyhow, I go over to the park and I'm milling about and checking out the little swings and rides. And there's a little area that was covered picnic tables. And there's a girl, and that area was covered. It was covered by like a, just a awning, a big awning or metal awning. And some girl walks up. I didn't know. A little dark-skinned girl, kind of maybe, might have been Filipino or something. Beautiful young lady. And she plugged this radio in. And she's like, do you want me to dance? And dude, I think whatever pimples or whatever I had going on, everything came to just the surface of my soul. This was the first woman that had ever, really just tempted my heart or even spoke to me, I think. It might have been the first girl that ever spoke to me. And I said, yeah. I just sat down at the picnic table. And this girl just did like an erotic dance to a Madonna song. I'm trying to think which one it was. Madonna, it was like like a virgin. This girl's just dancing, dude. And I don't think she meant to be erotic. She was just dancing, but I don't even think I could get an erection yet. But my legs straightened out. I think everything else I could get erect did in my body, And this girl danced for me. And then I never saw her the rest of the summer. And that was one of the first times I felt loss. I felt just a feeling of just deep loss, man. Just, where is this Filipino girl? And I would go over there and plug in a radio and just hope the song came back on, and then she would hear it and come out of the distance, or because when you're young, you fantasize that, anything is possible. So if you drop a sweet tune in the air, a fellow lovebird could fly into the scene. But it never occurred, and I felt a feeling of loss then. I remember I had a good summer there, but it was just it felt empty because I'd felt some feelings, that I'd never felt before, and I couldn't feel them again. And that was a feeling of loss that I had. Let me think of another time. We lived in a real shithole growing up. I don't know if you know what a shithole is, but it's just a place that you don't want to have people over because you're embarrassed, and you don't want to go home to because you're probably pretty embarrassed as well. And we had a toilet on the second floor. We had a toilet in the bathroom. I mean, that's natural. That's where it's supposed to be. I mean, if I caught it milling about in the foyer, that would be an issue. So we had a toilet there in the bathroom, but the plumbing on it was weak or it was bad. The plumbing on it was bad, and so it would leak a lot. This toilet would leak out. And downstairs, the toilet was right off to the side of the dinner table. And this just circle on the ceiling started up like this sort of brownish, greenish, just water circle, And one time, my mother had made us some pancakes. Because when my mother wasn't having to work a lot, she would make us pancakes. We would have breakfast at night. And it was really fun. She would get the griddle out, and she had one of those table griddles. It was just like a big frying pan that you could set the heat high on it. And you could set it out on the table, and it had a heat built into it. And she would just rifle off just a batch of just beautiful brown cakes, and we would enjoy them. And it was kind of one of the few times that our family really, there was a little bit of bonding then. But I remember one time my mother lit that thing up, and I'd been dealing with some shame about where we lived and just embarrassment and, starting to get into those feelings of low self-worth based on my home. And that toilet, I guess, had enough in that ceiling, and it just dropped, like the pipe. It stayed hooked to whatever pipe it was, but we were trying to enjoy these beautiful cakes, and this pipe just dropped at about a 20 degrees, and that toilet just hanging out from upstairs, man. And that's when I knew that our family was pretty much fucked. Because when that happens, when you're like, damn, the toilet's falling through the ceiling, You're pretty fucked, dude. And we still had to kind of use it upstairs, so you couldn't have a bowel movement, but you could urinate. So you'd have to urinate kind of just carefully and kind of just be careful where you stood because you could then at that point kind of see downstairs. And I remember starting to feel just a real sense of loss at that point. Just like, man, we're fucked, dude. We're fucked. We're fucked. That was just a little bit more than the law would allow, man. When the toilet's falling through the ceiling. What else, man? Yeah, Gaga didn't do it for me. I just would have liked to seen a little bit more. Let me give you my dates coming up, dude. I got some great dates coming up in case you missed them. I'm going to be in Baltimore this weekend, February 10th and 11th. I'm going to be at Magoobies. That's a comedy club. Never been there. Curious. 17th and 18th of February, I'll be in La Jolla at the La Jolla Comedy Store down by San Diego. The 23rd through 26th, I'll be in Denver at Comedy Works South. There's 2 of them, so come and check that out. And March 4th, I'll be in Bremerton, Washington at the Admiral Theater. You can come and see that show as well. Tickets for that one, you have to just maybe go to Admiral Theater website. But the rest of them, I will have. There are links through theovon.com. As well, if you don't have a Valentine's gift for somebody, they have this company called Me Undies, MEUNDIES. And if you go to MeUndies/Theo, THEO, you can get 20% off some dope junk covers. They honestly, I wear them all the time. It's the only ones I wear anymore. And they have men's and women's, and it's all just beautiful, just underwear for yourself. Feel sleek, you know? Feel sleek. And they got boxes too in case you want to nut out a little, you know? But they got briefs, they have it all. So I just say that because it helps keep the other podcast that I do with my buddy Matthew Cole Weiss. Allegedly, it helps keep that podcast going. What else, man? I got a sensual update, guys. This one's kind of, I guess, maybe weird for me to talk about, but I want to be transparent with everybody, you know, and let you guys know. So a while back, a couple months back, I met this gal off of Snapchat, and if you're on a Snapchatter, it's an application on your phone where you could disguise yourself as an animal or a Christmas baby or just somebody that's in a snowstorm or sometime in a boxing ring. They had one yesterday for the Super Bowl. They pour fruit juice on you. And, you know, at the end of the game, sometimes the men that have won will pour fruit juice on the captain. And it's really magical. It's almost like magic, but it's in your phone. Well, at some point, a couple of months ago, I met a gal off of Snapchat. I got loose in my sensual, you know, steadfastness, because as you know, I'm laying off of pornography. I'll give you an update right now where I am with that. Let me look at my app. I have an app that tells me how I'm doing. Pornography, 61 days pornography free. So that feels pretty good. Never thought that would be the case. I got caught up in it early. And used to bike across town and masturbate and spray out over by some people's house. But anyhow, so I met this girl off of Snapchat, dude, and we ended up just being nasty, you know? Just being nasty, man. Just like nasty cats and, you know, and just doing sex. And I was worried, honestly, that maybe I had gotten this young lady pregnant. You know, not because I didn't really drop any seed, you know, inside or anything like that, or, you know, or spray out, you know, or on the interior or do anything like that. There were a couple moments during the sex where I wanted to keep going with my brain. My brain wanted to keep going, but my nuts were just ready to really, expel themselves. And I kind of rode those out because you know, when that happens as a man, it's like being on a bull. But there's two bulls and they're your nuts. And you have to really you gotta just grit down, and sometimes there's even a button in your body you can press right behind your nuts. If you'll reach back there and press that, that'll calm the troops. But anyhow, that happened a couple of times, and we continued doing sex, and so I was worried after that. I was worried. I get paranoid about everything. It's one of the reasons why I try not to involve myself in too much rogue behavior sensually. I'm trying to be more cognizant and only make choices where I really have some feelings. Because if you're spraying out on every, Tom, Dick, and Harriet, or whatever you preference, then it's going to be hard to really find someone to settle down with, because your feelings are going to always be spraying out of your body. You got to keep your feelings in so that they mean something. When you meet somebody decent, then you can have something for them. So this wasn't the case, man. I've been, just purging, and at this time I'd still been making some poor choices. But afterwards, I brought it up to this girl. I was like, man, I'm a little bit concerned. And this girl was a Native American, dude. She was a Native American, and I pretty much respect Native Americans. I don't know much about them. I think I'm about a 16th Cherokee, but then everybody kind of says that they are. So, but yeah, man, she was a Native American, and she was nuts, dude. Honestly, she was kind of a thuggish Native American, like, yeah, motherfucker, catch me outside, yeah. So she was a bit wild, dude, and I'm thinking, I do not want to have a child with this woman. And so I just started talking to her, and I was like, I'm a little bit concerned. And, and she just goes, well, if I'm pregnant, I'm having a baby. And I mean, at that point, I just wanted to, I just felt like, damn, dude, what the fuck? And this girl lived in South Dakota, or one of the Dakotas, or in a tribal area, on the res, dude, on the res, bro. And I don't want a res baby. Unless I'm in love, And so I was just scared, man. It's been weighing on me, because I picture myself having an Indian baby. I had these dreams where me and this, I don't know if it was a baby, but maybe the baby had grown up a little bit, and it was just kind of like a taller baby, or, in a dream you can have a tall baby in there, and maybe the baby, we were like riding on some kind of animals, and we were walking together on trails and shit, and I was being Native American, and I was just having crazy thoughts coming to my head from all of this, and I don't know, I was scared, and it had been popping up. I was trying to have joy over the past couple months, and it had been popping up. Just this fear. And also this girl, her Indian name was I want to say it was like Little Ayahuasca or something. And somebody honestly is a little fucked up if ayahuasca, which is basically Mother Nature's acid, is their stream name, or whatever it's called, their nature name, their native name. So I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm not having a fucking baby with Little Ayahuasca, dog. I just didn't want that. I didn't see that for myself. And I've been praying about it, man, because I just, I love children, and I want to have some children one day, but I don't want this. I didn't want to be flying out to the, rural lands and having to check in and shit, and I just don't want to have to do all that yet. And I don't want to have a baby with this lady. I didn't want to have a baby with this lady, man. And she's like thugging, talking about, I'm happy, so it had been tumultuous. And then finally I get a text. I will read the text to you. This is what it said. It said, got my period, so we're good. Emoji, baby head. And then one of those no signs, like a no smoking. So I hope that is true. I don't even know what name I would have given a little baby if I had like an Indian child. I mean, I guess that would be cool, actually, naming a child, you know. Maybe Fancy Branch. Fancy Branch would be cool if it was like a gay boy Indian, or what else would be a good Native American Indian name for a baby? Maybe little Running Bear. Running Bear, that's cute, dude. Running Bear, pretty cute for just an Indian baby. I don't know, I'll think about some more native baby names. But anyway, it didn't happen. So I guess I'm a little sad, I guess, honestly, now that I think about it, because, I mean, it would have been probably cool to have like a papoose. That's what they call it, a papoose. You know, but this girl's thugging. I don't want a papoose like out at the club and shit. I don't know, man. But anyway, it's a relief. That's not going to occur. That's not going to be part of my life. And, you know, I'm trying to change my ways. And so when your old ways are still looming in the distance, I mean, it's been 2 months. It's been going on. Been wondering what's up. And this girl doesn't communicate. Why don't you just send me emojis and shit? Like, you know, just fucking buffalo. You know what I mean? But I mean, all types of emojis. So that's gone. So no baby. I'm not going to be a native father. Even though I probably could have got probably some cash at the back end of that, but that's not going to be my path. So essentially, that's where I'm at right now. I'm not thinking about sex really. I'm trying to keep my desires in my pants. In me undies. That's what I'm wearing right now. What else, man? Let's get through this. Guys. I'm a little bit tired, honestly. It's late here. It is 1:40 a.m. Oh, Tom Brady, his sick mother. Did you see her at the end, man? And that really, I think that hit home for a lot of people. You could just feel the relief, you know. You saw his mother right there, and his father was so happy. I mean, I think that maybe that's why he wanted it. That was the message that everyone needed to see. You know, love your mother. You know, try and love your mother. You know, even when the toilet's falling through the fucking ceiling, even if your mother is a fucking thuggin' Indian, you know, how my dang, get me out of you know, you gotta love your mother. So maybe that was beautiful to see, man. That made me feel something. It really made me feel something. Dude, I watched the game. Somebody invited me over to a party at Magic Johnson's old house, dude. So, you know, I was shaking out the couch cushions. Or, you know the couch cushions have been shaken out. See if any extra T-cells were hiding in there. So that was pretty cool. He has a basketball court. Or he used to. And we went in there and checked that out. Pretty dope, man. Oh, my family. So I was in Schaumburg, Illinois. That's where the Chicago Improv is. And my brother surprised me, dude. He had some friends that came up from the small town, actually, where I saw that girl dance for me on the tables once when I was a child. And I was going to eat dinner with his friends because my brother's friends are my friends, you know. And I show up at the restaurant and my brother's sitting right there, bro. My brother's sitting right there. And that was cool, man. You know, our relationship's gotten better over the years, and I feel just fortunate to have a brother. You know, I just feel fortunate to have a brother, and I feel fortunate now that he is not the uncle of a small Indian baby somewhere. So anyway, it was just beautiful, man. It was just beautiful, dude. You know, God's given me a lot of good gifts. My God has. And it was just nice, man. It just felt good. And my brother, it just made me feel like I cared about. And it made me feel good, man. First time I got drunk, actually, was in Illinois. I'll share this little story. So I actually was out with my brother and his friends. And I got high on marijuana. And got really drunk as well. And it was out in a cornfield where we were drinking. People had been peeing out in just the environment. You know, I've never seen people really peeing outdoors, you know. And being from the South and a little bit more maybe a little bit more cultured in the way of where you urinate, even though I've been urinating around my bed and stuff like that. Outdoors, you didn't do that. It just seemed like, you know, urinating is for more of a private ordeal. So I found some dude's car, man. I was drunk. It was a Ford Escort, and I've always loved a Ford Escort. I owned a Ford Escort one time that didn't have a passenger seat in it. So yeah, when you would get in, if you got in the passenger seat front side, you would just get directly into the back, dude. So it was like, it's just like nothing was there. It was pretty wild, actually. But anyhow, so I would, at this party, I started sneaking off and urinating into the back seat of this car. And I don't know if I thought that was okay or if I just thought it was crazy. I don't know what I thought. But I would just keep pissing in there when I had to piss. Well, eventually, I had to get a ride home. And everybody left and people were drunk and people were making out in the distance. And I was still a child, so I wasn't doing any making out or anything like that. I was probably maybe 13. And that kid gave me a ride home. The dude's car, I've been urinating in the back seat all night. So here I am just sitting and even laying down. I remember just falling asleep because it was about a 40-minute drive. Just on this my own cold urine seat. So I don't know what the story is there. It was just one time when I got drunk, so I just thought I would tell you that. What else, man? Let me get through the rest of my list here. This past weekend, yeah, man, lived in fear. That's something I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about living in fear, man. I'm going to do that next week. I'm going to talk about 3 times in my life that I lived in fear, bruh. So maybe that's something we'll focus on. I don't know if maybe something will happen in the next week that will make me think about fear or that I can tie that into, but we'll see. And what else, man? I had a great time in Chicago. I had some friends that came out and saw me. Just like a buddy of mine and I went to this crazy meeting, dude. We took his son to GameWorks. GameWorks is awesome, bro. It's like Chuck E. Cheese's. Oh, somebody died at a Chuck E. Cheese's too, a man. Some adult man died at a Chuck E. Cheese's recently. I couldn't find much information. He was bleeding. He was in the Chuck E. Cheese's, and then he died. So kind of a gangster way to go, man. The mullet's still coming out. That's feeling good. I got the comedy dates coming up. You can check that out. And what else, man? That's it, man. I hope you guys are doing good. I appreciate the support. If you are following this podcast, if you listen to it, subscribe, rate it, rank it. And also, if you haven't, check out my Netflix special and go 5-star. Give it 5 stars on Netflix. Because I just found out recently that somebody started a campaign when my special came out to have a ton of people give it 1 star. So that was kind of mean, man. I mean, there's a lot of vitriol and hatred in the world for no reason. Somebody I didn't even know who just was probably envious or just angry. So drop 5 stars on that. But take care of yourselves, man. I hope you guys are good. I'm tired. I'm sorry that I'm tired. I'm going to try to do this earlier. But I just flew in from Chicago this morning. I woke up at 6:15 over there. Or flew out at 6:15. I got here. I had a meeting I had to go to. Watch the Super Bowl. Had a comedy set at the Comedy Store. And I'm exhausted, man. I'm just grateful right now to have a bed to sleep in. I'm on YouTube too. If you're listening to this, you can also watch it on YouTube and subscribe. Just subscribe to me so I can keep in touch. I want to thank Amber Moon. She actually recommended this week that I have 3 things that I talk about regarding like a feeling or something. So after I saw Matt Ryan and he lost that Super Bowl, I was thinking about loss. So that's why I shared those 3 feelings of loss that I've had in my life. And what else, man? That's it, dude. I think that's it for me right now. But if you're struggling, if you need help, man, if you need a friend, reach out to me, dude. I'll do what I can do, And if I need help, I'll reach out to you, We're all just people. If you're still having trouble dealing with people when it comes to political stuff, try and think about their perspective. Because one of the biggest things I notice is just people's perspectives are different. If you're a wealthy white person who grew up in an affluent neighborhood, and you're going to have a different perspective of the world than if you are a impoverished Latino person who grew up with no parents, or who grew up in a violent neighborhood. Everybody's perspective is different, so that's why their views are different. Think about it. If your perspective is different, then your view is different. Like your view of the world is different, so you're going to have different thoughts and feelings. But don't let people judge you, man. It's one thing that I've been dealing with out here in Los Angeles is I'm kind of a progressive conservative. That's what I like to think of myself as. But I can't share a lot of my views because, the media doesn't want to hear them, or, a lot of people don't even want to discuss them. They think I'm disgusting or they think I'm dumb. And it's tough, dude. I feel sometimes kind of oppressed out here. I never felt that until recently. But I really sometimes feel oppressed, like just because I have a southern accent or because, I didn't come from a fancy family or something like that I'm not worthy, or that I'm not worthy to have have a career in this industry. And that's kind of tough, because that has nothing to do with my talent or my ability. But maybe those are just some feelings that I'm feeling, and maybe some of those things aren't reality. But it's crazy because they don't really want to give a lot of opportunities. It doesn't seem like to people that have some views that are conservative, That doesn't mean I'm racist. That doesn't mean I'm ignorant, In fact, I'm not those things. I'm just conservative sometimes in some of my thoughts. And some of my perspective is a little bit more conservative than others. It doesn't mean that I don't want everybody to feel good or everybody to progress or that I don't want mass diversity and everybody to live in joy and harmony. That's exactly what I want. But I also want us to live in reality, and I want us to deal with real things that are going on. And I feel like everybody should be able to have a voice. And sometimes I feel in this industry like I don't. And that sometimes it is a little bit painful. So that's maybe some of the pain that I've been dealing with recently. But I'm also unpained by the fact that I don't have a young Native American child. What do we have? I got a couple of stories here. Some Patriots, the New England Patriots players refusing to visit the White House because Trump is in office. I thought about it. You know what? Oh, well, that's fine. I don't think Trump cares. I don't think he cares. I think, the presidency it's not a celebrity, and if people don't want to go, good. That's less tax dollars we got to pay to feed one of these big steroid mongrels, Jerry Olshansky and frickin' Lamar Lalonde Johnson. We don't have to feed them. That's an extra probably $700 taxpayers are going to save by not feeding them big muppets. So I don't care. I just wish they didn't make news about this. It's like, who cares? People don't want to go. They don't go. Some people don't want to go to their mother-in-laws. Even if the meatloaf's going to be good, they don't want to deal with it. So, I liken this to kind of that. What else, man? What else? Oh, this was kind of wild. 188,000 people have been evacuated from North California counties after damage to a spillway at the Oroville Dam. So the dam remains intact apparently, but they're thinking it might rupture. 188,000 people. I mean, can you imagine that? Somebody comes to your door, the waters would you even leave? What would you do, honestly? I mean, in New Orleans, it was flooding, and 10% of the population is like, nah, bro, we gonna ride it out, man. Would you leave? I was in Kansas City one time, and some friggin' muppet downstairs, probably somebody, frying an egg with a lighter and some hairspray, set something on fire at this hotel I was at. And this hotel was like 20 floors. There's fire trucks outside, and I was barely making ends meet. I remember I'd buy groceries, and I'd hung them out the window during the day because it was freezing outside. I didn't have a refrigerator in my room, so I'd hang the groceries out the window, let them get cold, or all night. I would hang them out all night, and then during the day I'd bring them inside, let them thaw out, and by about lunchtime I'd make me, something out of, they had some lunch meats in there, and some different, cheeses, maybe a mustard, some, different accoutrements, that I could really, just treat my face to something, just, some libations and, some foods. So anyway, I had this sandwich, but dude, I've been thinking about this sandwich all day, and finally everything thawed out. Made myself a nice sandwich. I got it stacked. I'm sitting on the bed. I think I might have smoked a little keef at the time. And dude, this thing was on fire. The alarm's going off. And a fireman's comes in my room. A big black fireman's. And dude, I'm sitting on the bed, and they've long since said evacuate the hotel. It's been coming on. They had a speaker, evacuate the hotel. He comes in, I'm like, he just looks at me. He had on a fireman's outfit, axe. Dude had an axe, bruh. Like there's trees up here. I'm on like the 13th floor. There's no trees up here, bruh. And I was just sitting there. And he's like, you gotta go, man. I was like, dude. I was like, I just made this sandwich, bruh. I really feel like chilling. And this fireman looks at me, and he's like, all right, fam, do what you do. And he left, bruh. Coolest fireman. A white fireman wouldn't have done that. A white fireman would not have done that. So I say, if you're going to deal with the fireman and you're trying to keep it chill, go black fireman. For sure. What else occurred? Yeah, but so they're moving people. California, 188,000 people. I'm just shocked, like, California's supposed to be in a drought. Here the dam's going to break. Like, pick your poison. Pick your poison, California. You can't, be hoping for water. And then finally, the powers that be send you this gift of breaking a dam. And now you're complaining about it. I say just let it break. Let everybody drink up, dude. Drink up while it's flowing. That's what I always do. Drink up while it's flowing. Next, in Louisville, Kentucky, emergency metro service workers responded to 52 overdose calls this past weekend. That's a lot, dude. 52, dude. It's unfortunate, man. Addiction's powerful. People out there, they're on the dust, they cooking up. It's unfortunate. But 52 overdoses. Damn. Man. I mean, some of them you gotta let them go. Maybe some people are ready for heaven. Some of them you gotta let them go. But obviously some jank smack came through town. You got a bad chef in the dope kitchen. So you're hunting a chef now. I mean, you could say you're hunting a drug dealer and this and that, but you got to do with a bad recipe. So you need a Breaking Bad, and I'd find a good chef of dope, parole him, get him set up in the area. At least then your users are going to live long enough to hopefully get help. So that may seem like a backward solution, but guess what, bro? My whole life is backward solutions, dude. Growing that hair out a little bit. Damn! The hang time coming off the back of my head. Sweet! Happy Valentine's! Happy Valentine's. I want to say that to everybody. I feel like, I'm trying to love myself this year. That's what it seems like I'm doing. I don't have a girl this year, so I'm loving myself, I'm still lamenting a little bit the loss of, the young Rez baby we almost had. I mean, I wasn't ready for that. I didn't want to have a Native American child, but at the same time, it does make you start to think, I did have some other dreams and daydreams of me, like, holding, like, a child in, like, some furs and us laying by a stream and, just doing just native outdoor activities, crafts, dream catching, just real calm Native American type stuff, trading corn with people, catching diseases from whites, just kind of ideas that popped through my head, because that might have been the closest I came to having a child. But Valentine's it is, man. Are you in love? That's what I want to know, bro. You in love? Somebody love you? Who you gonna love? That's my thing. If nobody's loving me, then I gotta love somebody. Like for years I'm sitting around just disappointed that nobody's loving me. But I'm gonna reach out and love some people. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let my mother know I love her. I'll maybe let a couple of other, older ladies know that I love them, ladies that, are just living their lives. Maybe a couple single mothers, just reach out, let them know somebody loves them. So maybe try that, dude. Try to love somebody, If nobody's loving you, be the aggressor. Be the aggressor. That's what I find. If I stop worrying about what's going on with me and create some love, that's it, man. I'm going to talk about some of my first loves. I spoke about one last week. They had that girl that was dancing erotic at the park, when I was young, and that was, a lot of that were just real sensual feelings as well, just when your body just bubbles up and boils with blood out to the end of your pecker, and, you just fired up and you keyed up. Another girl I had when I was young, after that gal, after the erotic park dancer, this girl, she lived in my neighborhood. Chrissy was her name. Chrissy, like Chris, but with C on the end of it, or S-I-E, Chrissy. She had a bad grill, dude. She was just a little grillrilla, bro. Her teeth were all stacked up, and just one of them might have been chipped out a little bit, kind of Lloyd Christmasing. But I just loved her, man. She had freckles, first freckles I'd ever seen, bro. Look, a good decent amount. Looked like somebody just beat her in the face with some heavy cinnamon. Just freckles, and she always wore like this purple shirt, and she was real poor. We were poor, and man, I used to fantasize about her and be erect and just think about her, At night I used to pretend, or even in the day sometimes, honestly, that one of my pillows was her, and I would, do, sensual touches and thoughts and stuff with this pillow, and, things that a young guy does, I just brought up another idea. I was visiting my father was 70 when I was born. Some of you guys know that. And he had a different family before us. So I have some siblings now that are in their 70s. But at the time, one of them lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And I went to visit this half-sister of mine, and I'd never spent any time with her. And she had a husband, this little flamenco. I think he was a flamenco dancer. He would do the fancy dancing, and, he had real strong legs, I remember. He was short, but just all muscle from the waist down, just like a little centaur, if that is what I'm thinking it is. I don't know if it is, but he was just solid, if in a plane crash, you'd eat him first, you would grill him up. But anyway, he took me to the liquor store. He was going to get some liquor for him and his wife, and I'm wandering around this liquor store, and this lady comes up, and she goes, "Have you seen my kitty?" And I didn't think they had a cat. I've been around some nasty cats, really, and I remember at night when I was young, you would hear cats just kind of choking each other and fighting, just being nasty to each other. But I didn't know really what this lady was talking about. And then she's like, "Have you seen my kitty?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And then she opened her trench, she had a trench coat, and she had her breasts and vagina right there, And I saw that. I don't even know if I told you guys this story anymore, but I definitely felt some strong feelings of affection. But yeah, they had the girl with the bad teeth. That girl, she had that, just a 4-3 defense in her mouth. Them teeth were just stacked on stacks, dude. Just looked like a bunch of enamel having an orgy, really, more than a smile. And I had a strong grill growing up. I had a bunch of spaces in my teeth for a long time, till I got older. What else? Oh, another time, the first time I was around some sex that wasn't my own, really, I think. This isn't really a Valentine, but this is kind of, it's in the vein of love and sexuality. They had this boy in our town named Boo Boo Tyson. And Boo Boo had been in a fire, And I don't know who did a fire to him, or somebody said his brother burnt down the house, and he got caught up in a fire, and one of his legs was real, just been really affected by the fire and just kind of grilled up. One of his legs was kind of, medium well. And he used to put polish on it all the time, and, lotion, olive oil, different types of oil, baby butter, all of that, baby oil, WD-40, whatever they had. I mean, he would keep it moist, Well, sometime when I was about maybe 14, we used to get high. We used to get high under the influence of marijuana. And I had me a Ford Escort. In Louisiana, you could drive when you could drive, really. Maybe I was 15. I think you had to be 15 to drive. And Boo Boo Tyson, I would go drive him around sometimes, because I used to spend a lot of time hanging out in the black neighborhoods. Those kids were peers, really. We were all in the same socioeconomic class, and we spent a lot of time together. So Boo Boo, I'd drive him around, and he would bring this dog. He had this dog. I don't remember what this dog name was. Beautiful white animal. Beautiful. Well, one night, me and Boo Boo's out and about, getting stoned and just riding around, and my headlights were real dim, so that it couldn't see real far, so I would drive slow because I don't even know what kind of bulbs I had in there, maybe 80 watt. But I couldn't drive very fast, so because I didn't want to get out ahead of my headlights, I wanted to be able to see where I was going. Anyway, he had a girlfriend, he takes me by their house. So he goes inside of this house, gets his girlfriend, they come out, and I'm supposed to be watching this dog, because his dog was in the car, right? So he gets out, he's talking to his girl, and me and the dog is sitting in the car. They had a couple treats in there, some snacks, maybe a couple, I don't remember what it was, maybe a beef jerky and Tootsie Rolls, a couple of Tootsie Rolls. I think his animal, liked a few sugar treats as well as meat. So I'm in there, and Boo Boo starts doing sex with this girl, basically on the back of my car, like up against the back of my car. Well, the dog started getting agitated, man. And so I gave him that meat, And I'm yelling, man. I'm yelling at Boo Boo, about the dog, because the dog was getting gnarly, and I don't know this animal. I've maybe spent 2 afternoons around this animal, and I don't know animals anyway. I got jumped by a bunch of dogs growing up on my birthday one time. 2 years later, some of those dogs came back and jumped me again. 2 of them were black, actually. The black ones are the ones that came back. And I don't think race matters when it comes to animals, but these dogs were black. But anyway, so now I'm with this white dog. This thing's getting gnarly, dude. Boo Boo's up making love out there, He's got that ashy limb just grinding. So I had to jump out of the car. I mean, the dog starts getting aggressive with me, and I don't like I get nervous around dogs, haven't been attacked. So now I'm out the car, dude, and he's just yelling at me to get back in the car while he's doing sex at the same time. So that was really, I guess, the first time that I was around some sex, just chaotic, It was just intense, dude. And they were out there for a long time, and I'm fending this animal off, and man, I felt like I was fucking almost a little bit, because I was just, I'm in there just growling and just kill. And they're out there just like, it was just an intense environment. So that's another time, really, I guess, when love really was struck early in my life. What else? A Valentine. I'm trying to think of a good Valentine that I had. In junior high, I had a girlfriend. I got her she looked like a boy. She had a boy's haircut. They only had one haircut in our town, and it was kind of like this Polish lesbian cut. And our bus driver gave it. But this girl, I got her a Atlanta Braves t-shirt, dude, because it was cheap. They had this cheap store, and I got her that. Anyway, I got asked into a threesome this weekend. Let's keep the train going on love, dude. Let's keep the train going on love. Right, Mr. Big? To be with you. This was the jam when I was young. You could be on top of one. Wake up, who cares about little boys that talk too much? I see it all go down. So after the show, I'm out there in Baltimore, and after the show, this man approached me. We're out there talking on a patio, just chilling, maybe enjoying a cigarette. And he said hello, and I'm talking. He got his African girlfriend. She was African. She's from an African country. Beautiful young lady, and he was probably about maybe 40, 44. We're chatting, and they're friendly. They're kind of milling, and I'm milling around, and I'm wondering what's going on. And they kind of invite me if I want to go eat or something, and I'm like, this feels a little odd, just what's up? And then the dude's like, all right, honey, I'm just going to go ahead and ask him. And I was like, what's going on? And the second he opened his mouth, I could tell that I was getting invited into a threesome, And if you're not familiar with the threesome, that's where, two people are going to do sex and they want you to be out there with them, in some capacity. And, I've had fantasies about this, and mostly it's just me and two women. I actually made love to a couple of young ladies that were cousins one time in Indiana. If they weren't cousins, they're cousins now. You know what I'm saying? That's the second way to be cousins, I guess. But anyhow, this man and his wife, I'd never been approached by a man and a woman. So I'm nervous. As the guy is asking me, I am nervous for him because I can feel how nervous he is. This is a nerve-wracking thing, So we kind of said, I've always, wanted somebody to be with my wife. And we'd like you to come with us. And I didn't know what to say, man. My first thought was no, that I didn't want to. But then, part of me, I'm not drinking. I'm looking for adventures here and there. I'm thinking, well, this could be an adventure. So I said, well, let me get y'all's number. So the girl gave me her number, and let me think about it for a little bit, and then I will get in touch in a little while. And because I didn't want them to feel bad. I didn't want them to feel rejected. They said this was the first time they'd asked somebody to do this, and I kind of believed them, just the way that the energy was. Like, this dude was like shaking kind of when he asked me. So it was pretty wild, dude. I certainly felt flattered, right? But I'm going to read to you the text conversation that occurred, just so you can hear kind of what I was thinking, what they were thinking. I try to be as, friendly as possible. So I said, thanks for the offer. Have never been offered. Flattered. How does it work? Is it all three of us hooking up? Is it a double penetration sort of thing? Or just Randy, that was the man's name, or just Randy watches you and me? So that's what I sent. So she writes back, hey, so it'd be the first for Randy and I together as a couple, but however you're comfortable. He'd like to start off by watching and then join in. So, it's kind of not fair if he, he's, at this point, I am 98% not going to get involved, but I am super curious as to what these people are thinking. He'd like to start off by watching and then join in. He insists on both of you undressing me, the watching, then join, ? Again, however you're comfortable. I said, thanks for the info. And is Randy into men, or is both of our attention on you? She said, what's comfortable for you? ? We're both quite open. Randy would enjoy seeing me with another man. I said, understood. I'm going to pass on the lovely offer. Has nothing to do with you two. I appreciate it. Y'all seem like super people. Who the fuck says super people to some people? What? Who am I? I just am not sure how I feel about it all, so I'm going to pass. Maybe next time we can see what's up. Thank you, guys. And then she wrote back, not to worry, you're very welcome. So, that's kind of how it went down, dude. That little, that Trace offer came through. If it were two girls, I would the consideration would have been a lot more. I mean, I just don't want to be naked around no other man, really, unless later in life, if I decide to, after I want to have a family and stuff, if I decide that I want to, be sentimental or with another man, then that's different, But, because I don't know what God has planned for me, you don't know. But for now, I don't have the desire for that. But I thought it was brave, though. I thought it was really brave for the dude to ask. I mean, I could just feel as he's asking, I'm just feeling this dude's paranoia and the nervousness. It was pretty interesting, man. Pretty interesting. So I got offered a threesome, and that might be my Valentine, really. That might be the only Valentine that I get this year, is getting that offer. I'm going to give you guys a couple of dates that I have coming up. The 17th and 18th this weekend, February 17th and 18th, I'll be at the La Jolla Comedy Store. Next weekend, February 23rd through 26th, I'm at Comedy Works in Denver. Saturday, March 4th, I'm at the Admiral Theater in Bremerton, Washington. You might have to go to their site to find that. And then there's some other dates coming, but they're not on the schedule yet. But May 25th through 28th, I'll be in Tampa at Side Splitters. So that's what's going on. Those are the dates. Happy Valentine's. We got a new number now. If you want to call in, we got a Google Voice number. Let's get to some of those advice questions right now. How about that? Here we have, like, meats. It was pets. It was everything. Bait. Just small animals. Guineas, hamps, G-pigs, rats, mice, nutria. And I remember, now one thing, if you don't know this about hamsters will, a lot of times birthing makes the mothers very nervous. And they will, it's kind of a bummer to say, but they'll eat their young. They will get rid of their young. I mean, they're the Casey Anthony of small ground game. And this, one time we had a hamster that, had some children. This lady hamster had some children, knocked off her own children, just straight up got super Italian on them, and then started killing other hamsters' children. And that I'd never seen before. And they had a dude that worked at the hamster place who was like, I'm going to take care of them. And I thought, he'd poison him or something, but he took him and shot him in the head, dude. And I hate to say that. I've had some issues with animals. I accidentally, killed that deer with that lawnmower when I was working on a soybean and cotton farm. And that still haunts me, man. Still haunts me, dude. If you have not been through, we've all got our own little Vietnams, and that was one for me, man. Just driving this, 6-8 foot grass, and and you hear Bambi go down. Bambi go down. But anyway, yeah, this hamster got rogue, and it was just killing local hamster children. And this dude, I thought he poisoned it or something, but then who goes and shoots a hamster in the head, bro? You know what I'm saying? This dude is straight up. That's intense, man. That's really, really intense, I feel like that's like, I don't even know what that is. That's unnecessary for sure. Do something, poison it, do something. But yeah, this guy took it outside and shot it. So I guess, Gabriel, that would be your answer, man. That's one of the only times I had a hamster go B on me. I had an H go B. But they'll bite you. Well, and the hamsters we're getting nowadays, Gabriel, I can't even tell you if they're safe or not, because a lot of these hamsters, they're from Russia. If you look at them, they're angry, they're small, they're meek. They look like premature babies. They're red-eyed, red-handed, just already look real, real scattered, like they're alcoholics or, maybe in Cocaine Anonymous meetings. They look like hamsters you would meet in a place like that. So I am concerned about the ground game that's currently coming through America, because a lot of that market went abroad. A lot of that market went to Russia. So who knows? Maybe Trump will bring some of that abroad back to the U.S. We'll see. Let's get to some more advice here. What's next?
Hey Theo, I'm 31 years old. I've been working out the past year, and I'm in the best shape of my life. I've been thinking about maybe entering one of those tough man boxing competitions, but I'm a little sketchy on. I don't know if I want to get knocked out or something. So let me know if you think it's a good idea. I just kind of want to test myself and see if I got what it takes to step into the ring against somebody. But maybe it's stupid. Let me know. Love the show, man. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. 31 years old, and you want to do competitive fighting. Well, I think if you're in the best shape of your life, does that mean you're in fighting shape, though? Because, getting some abs doesn't mean that you're ready. Like Fabio isn't fighting BJ Penn. You don't see Heidi Klum going up against Ronda Rousey. Being in shape is one thing. Being in fighting shape, that's another. But look, I say do it, man. One thing I notice as I get older, I get more... Like, I used to watch football and be like, man, I could still play this game. But now I watch and I'm just like, God, I'm so thankful I don't have to be out there running around. Even though I never had a chance to play. Like, now I just don't... It's not even a reality. So, if you're 31, you think you can do it, I say give it a shot, dude. Because only one or two things are going to happen. You're going to get beat up, and then you'll realize it's not for you, or you're going to do okay. But I would say if you got a kid, if you got a wife, get them front row tickets, dude. Don't squelch on that, because if something bad happens to you, your brain gets all, just spanked, and you get all, you just wandering around, just limp in the cheeks after that. You want your family to be there. You don't want your kid wondering what happened that night, or, like that's one thing about Cinderella, man. I love that movie, but you got to have the wife and kids at the fight. You can't have them smuggled up in some hallway somewhere, sharing a piece of, just bread or toast and not having a chance to spend time with you. So I think if you got family, get them front row seats. And that way, if you get the shit knocked out of you or whatever, at least they're there, and you're not just being selfish. Because if you get in there and lose, and you lose an eye, or you